Chapter 1. The High-Tech War System. Run. Desperate cries echoed in his ears. Wang Chung suddenly jumped up from his seat. As he opened his eyes, he saw a figure staggering towards him. It's a mutant, without a second thought. He instinctively grabbed the water bottle beside him and swung it towards the figure's head. Wait, a water bottle. At the last moment, Wang Cheng's action suddenly froze. The figure in front of him was not a mutant with a split head and a twisted gait, but his familiar calculus teacher, Chen Guodong. Looking around, he realized it was an ordinary classroom, seemingly in the midst of an exam. All he could see were familiar faces of his university classmates, staring at him in shock. Outside the window, the afternoon sun was bright, and the apocalyptic scene seemed like it had never happened. Wang Chung was momentarily stunned. It's the third day of the apocalypse. Wasn't I killed by a mutant? How? Could it be that I've been reborn? Chen Guodong was also startled by Wang Chung. He swiftly snatched the water bottle from Wang Cheng's hand and said, "What's wrong with you? It's one thing to skip class normally, but sleeping during the final exam? And now you want to hit me? Come with me, I'm taking you out for a talk. Why are you pulling out your phone? This is an exam room." Wang Cheng didn't hear a word of what Chen Guodong said. A wave of disbelief surged in his heart as he pulled out his phone to check the time. It was May 27th, 235 in the Federation. The very day the apocalypse began that I really have been reborn. Chen Guodong was genuinely getting angry. In his 50s, he was a well-respected professor at Haicheng University, with a relatively high failure rate in calculus. Over the years, he had never encountered a student who so blatantly disrespected him. Sleeping during an exam was one thing, but now he was being ignored completely. What kind of behavior was this? Are you not afraid of getting expelled? Chen Guodong was furious and reached out to grab Wang Cheng's arm, pulling him towards the hallway for a proper scolding. Wang Cheng turned to look at the people in the room. Since they were all from the same class, they were sitting together. His roommates were right in front and behind him, and he turned to see those familiar faces. They were all still alive. His roommate, Su Xinghai, even quietly gave Wang Chung a thumbs up and silently mouthed, "Nice job. Remember to admit defeat when you go out," as they were pulled out of the exam room. Before Chen Guodong could explode in anger, he noticed Wang Cheng's face was slightly flushed and paused for a moment. "Are you starting to feel scared? Are you about to cry?" Before he finished speaking, Wang Chung stepped forward and hugged him tightly. "Professor Chen, it's so good to see you alive." "Chen Guodong, what are you What are you doing? Where do you think you're going? I haven't let you leave yet. Do you want to get expelled?" Wang Chung gave Chen Guodong an excited bear hug and then turned to leave, leaving Chen Guodong dumbfounded. Wang Chung just waved his hand from a distance. "Professor Chen, say goodbye to your family before dark, and then find a place to lock yourself up. I don't want to kill you again." After a brief moment of excitement, his expression became serious. He remembered clearly. Today, the world would experience an unprecedented disaster. A terrifying mutation, the cause of which was unknown, would sweep across the globe, and 70% of all living beings would transform into mutants within hours. Beings more terrifying than zombies. Humans, animals, insects, and even plants would not escape. In his memories, Chen Guodong had transformed and was killed by Wang Chung himself. The remaining 30%, although fortunate enough to avoid mutation, would live in a hellish apocalypse, worse than death, because they would exist in a world gone mad with global mutations. Wang Chung had only survived 3 days before being torn apart by a mutant. His last memory was of Su Xinghai screaming at him to run, but how could he escape? Yet, he had somehow come back to life. This was a chance given to him by fate. After a moment of excitement, Wang Chung quickly calmed down. It was exactly 2 o'clock in the afternoon. The mutations would start at 6 in the evening, with a full outbreak at 7. Optimistically, he had only 5 hours left to prepare. With 5 hours to prepare, he absolutely did not want to die within 3 days again. Wang Chung left the campus directly, took a taxi, and headed to the supermarket for a frantic shopping spree. He took all his living expenses out. Wang Chung didn't shout out anything about the impending apocalypse. There were no signs of this terrifying mutation coming, and shouting online would only get him muted at best. Or worse, summoned by authorities for questioning. By then, the disaster would have struck, and he would be stuck in a confinement room, waiting to die. Wang Chung had no illusion of wanting to save the world or humanity. Under mutation, no matter your identity, age, status, or wealth, you could become a mutant. The whole world would be reshuffled under the terrifying apocalypse. Wang Chung needed to make the most of this rebirth opportunity and live well. He couldn't worry about others and things anymore. Sitting in the car, Wang Chung called his parents far away in Fengtian, telling them that a great disaster might be approaching, urging them to come home immediately and stock up on supplies without going out. His parents were ordinary workers, and upon hearing Wang Cheng's words, they didn't really believe him. Instead, they were very worried, even thinking that something had traumatized him. Listen to me, Mom and Dad. You must be home before 5, and after 7, do not go out. Wait for me, I will come to find you. When the apocalypse broke out, communication networks would be the first to collapse, and he wouldn't be able to reach them. Wang Chung didn't know if his parents would mutate, but he had to do what he could. Upon arriving at the supermarket, Wang Chung went on a shopping spree, pushing a cart full of supplies, leaving the store's staff dumbfounded. At the same time, he bought a bunch of knives, kitchen knives, fruit knives, boning knives. After the disaster struck, getting these supplies would mean risking encounters with mutants and competing with other survivors. Therefore, he bought as many useful items as he could. He spent all his living expenses and his earnings from 3 years of tutoring during university. Please deliver these items to the boys' dormitory 703 in Building 17 of Haicheng University. Wang Chung clearly stated the address to the staff, asking them to help with the delivery. He also called Su Xinghai and the others, who had already completed their exams. I bought some things. Hurry back to the dormitory and help me receive them. Su Xinghai said, do you know Wang? Professor Chun is going crazy. He has reported to the school leadership, and you might get expelled. Didn't I tell you to admit defeat? What if you really get expelled? Wang Chung replied, it's fine, don't worry. Su Xinghai was shocked. What's wrong with you today? You seem so calm. Meanwhile, the supermarket staff looked at the pile of items Wang Chung had bought and heard they were to be delivered to the dormitory. Finding it hard to believe, could all this stuff fit in the dorm? But Wang Chung had already left. He contacted a local vendor selling stun guns online, settled on a price, and prepared to pick up the goods. The place is not far, and there is some traffic on the way. Wang Chung simply hopped onto a blue shared electric scooter parked by the roadside and sped forward on his little electric ride. At this moment, it was already 3:30 p.m. Time was running out. However, while riding, a cold electronic voice suddenly rang in Wang Cheng's ears. The high-tech warfare system has been successfully loaded. System energy remaining, 50 points. Host has been confirmed. Host is currently using a vehicle. Scanning current vehicle. Vehicle meets current energy modification standards. Binding vehicle. Current vehicle has low functionality and poor performance. Would you like to spend 50 points of energy to upgrade the current vehicle? Wang Chung. Chapter 2. This battleship is definitely not a shared electric vehicle. The speed of the small electric scooter gradually decreased. With years of reading experience in novels, Wang Chung quickly calmed down and took a deep breath. System? Dear host, the Advanced Technology Warfare System is at your service. Would you like to spend 50 energy points to upgrade your current vehicle to a battleship that matches your status? Wang Cheng's small electric scooter came to a complete stop. Just hearing the name of this system sounded impressive. It was offering to transform this shared electric vehicle into a battleship right away. If the system was activated and he had a battleship, what was there to fear from the apocalypse or mutant creatures? A battleship would be a dimensional strike against those things. It was about to take off. Wang Chung suppressed his excitement, glanced at the crowded street, and instead of rushing to buy electric shock devices, he pulled the shared electric vehicle into a secluded alley and spoke to the system directly. Upgrade to a battleship. The apocalypse was approaching, and since the system had descended, he might as well make good use of it. Dear host, please follow the instructions. Place your hands on your vehicle. Wang Chung complied and placed his hands on the shared electric scooter. Battleship upgrade initiated. Expected duration 2 minutes and 17 seconds. During this process, please do not leave your vehicle. Accompanied by the system's prompt, Wang Chung felt a warm stream of energy surge from his palms into the shared electric scooter. Then, an incredible scene unfolded before his eyes. The unremarkable shared electric vehicle began to emit a bright white light, enveloping the entire scooter. Shortly after, he heard a heavy, unusual sound coming from beneath him, and his body jolted. It was like something from a movie, as if a transformer was changing shape. However, under the white light, Wang Chung couldn't clearly see the specific changes of the scooter and could only wait. 2 minutes passed in the blink of an eye. As the white light gradually faded, Wang Chung looked forward to a stylish battleship appearing. Instead, what appeared before him was a sleek black two-wheeled body, the wheels seemingly larger, and the front basket split into 2 mounting devices on either side. Aside from the color change to black and the larger wheels, what was the difference from the previous shared electric vehicle? The corners of Wang Cheng's mouth twitched as he noticed that even the QR code from the shared vehicle was still clearly visible at the back. Besides that, the handlebars of this shared electric scooter now had many strange buttons, seemingly able to activate different functions. System, are you sure you upgraded this for me? Dear host, your battleship has been upgraded and is now at level 0. Although the appearance has not changed much, its speed, performance, and hull defense have been significantly enhanced. Additionally, 2 mounting modules have been created where you can install weapon systems that fit perfectly with the battleship. Wang Chung, even with upgraded performance and defense, it's still a fact that it's just a weak vessel. He looked at the 2 weapon mounting modules created from the vehicle frame. still holding on to a glimmer of hope, and asked, "What about the weapons? Where are the weapons for these 2 modules? You need to add them yourself. You can invest energy to upgrade the weapons you obtain and install them on the battleship, improving its survivability, attack, and operational capabilities. Additionally, you can increase energy input to elevate the battleship's level, granting it even more powerful performance." Wang Qing twitched his lips and began to ask a series of questions. After about half an hour, he finally understood all the functions of this advanced technology warfare system. This warfare system is essentially an upgrade system. It can technologically upgrade any item, such as a toy gun, which can be transformed into a real firearm, and toy simulation bullets can be upgraded to real bullets. The same goes for battleships, which can be upgraded to become terrifying vessels capable of traversing thousands of kilometers. However, 2 prerequisites must be met for upgrades. First, Wang Chung must provide corresponding items, such as basic templates, electric vehicles, toy guns, etc. Only with these items can the system achieve upgrades based on them. Second, energy is required. Upgrading any item requires energy input. Without energy, upgrades cannot be achieved. For example, at this moment, Wang Cheng's Level 0 shared electric battleship needs to invest an additional 100 units of energy to further enhance and get closer to becoming a super battleship. Unfortunately, the system itself has only 50 units of energy, which has already been depleted in transforming the ordinary electric vehicle into a Level 0 battleship. So, how do I obtain energy? The system's response came immediately. The only energy acquisition channel for the advanced technology warfare system is hunting high-energy organisms. High-energy organisms? What are high-energy organisms, and where can I find them? High-energy organisms are biological entities that contain powerful biological energy and mutation abilities, including but not limited to all carbon-based and silicon-based life forms. The system is currently scanning. The current scanning radius is 10 kilometers centered on the host. Scanning completed. No high-energy organisms found within the scanning range. Hearing this result, Wang Chung was not very disappointed. Instead, his expression became strange. Because the criteria mentioned by the system for high-energy organisms seemed to resemble the mutated beings after the apocalypse. Perhaps hunting mutated beings could recharge the system. Wang Qing took a deep breath. Although the system's power was not apparent now, it possessed an infinite upper limit. Gradually, due to the fear of the impending apocalypse, Wang Qing became calm. After all, although he is a reborn individual, he has only been reborn for 3 days and cannot have much experience or temperament. However, to fully utilize the system's effectiveness, it is likely necessary to wait until the apocalypse breaks out. Therefore, preparations before that are very important. The small electric vehicle was started again, and Wang Chung was ready to purchase a stun gun. At the same time, he also planned to go to the toy store to buy a large batch of toy guns. As long as there is energy, toy guns can turn into real guns. Not to mention battleships. If there are guns available at the beginning of the disaster, the survival probability will significantly increase. Although this electric vehicle looks not much different from shared electric bikes, the system has indeed made some modifications. For example, Wang Qing noticed that this small electric vehicle has even added a nitrous feature, and the maximum speed on the dashboard has increased to 150. It seems that the overall weight of the vehicle has also increased, which is quite exaggerated for a small electric vehicle. Wang Qing is very much looking forward to what changes will occur after further upgrades. Even if it can't transform into a battleship, a flying small motorcycle seems acceptable. At this moment, the road doesn't seem so congested anymore, and the cars have started moving. Wang Qing, wanting to test the enhanced performance of his modified shared electric vehicle, stopped when a group of vehicles was waiting for the traffic light. The moment the red light turned green, he also started simultaneously. The small electric vehicle shot forward, surprisingly faster than a BMW that was next to him. The owner of the BMW, a middle-aged successful man, seemed to have noticed Wang Qing. He stepped on the gas, accelerating to 40 and directly overtaking Wang Qing. He couldn't help but shake his head and chuckle, saying to his female companion, "This young man racing on a shared electric vehicle on the main road. Does he really think an electric vehicle can outrun a BMW?" However, he soon saw that the black electric vehicle quickly accelerated from behind, gradually catching up to his BMW, and even threatening to overtake it. The middle-aged man's face stiffened for a moment as he felt the strange gaze from his female companion, and he suddenly felt a bit embarrassed, then continued to accelerate, this time pushing it to 60. Yet, the previous scene repeated itself. Although the distance between the two cars opened up instantly, it seemed because the small electric vehicle didn't accelerate immediately. After a moment, it leisurely caught up from behind and gradually surpassed him. Can this small electric vehicle really go this fast? Is it the BMW of electric vehicles? The female companion joked. It was just a joke, but the middle-aged man's face became increasingly uncomfortable. What BMW of electric vehicles? Can't you see? This small electric vehicle even has a QR code on the back. It's just a shared bike, a common thing. It's already speeding in the city. And this kind of small electric vehicle has a maximum speed of only 60 to 70. Look, I'm going 80, and I'll leave it in the dust. With a push on the gas, the BMW sped off. The female companion expressed some concern. This is the city. We're going too fast. Let us not. Her voice abruptly stopped. She and the middle-aged man stared in disbelief as the small electric vehicle came chugging up from behind, just as leisurely, gradually overtaking them, then swiftly pulling ahead, leaving them far behind. The middle-aged man's face was flushed, more out of disbelief. How could this be? He must have modified it. Absolutely modified it. I need to call the traffic management department to report him. Chapter 3. Wang Chung from 703 has gone crazy. When he returned to school, Wang Chung, who had been busy and hadn't checked his phone, finally realized that he had become famous in school. After what happened in the exam room, he was already well known in his class and major, and his operation of nearly emptying the supermarket made him famous in the dormitory building as well. Various items seemed to have been transported from the supermarket to the base of the dormitory, attracting the attention of both male and female students. His roommates, including Su Xinghai, put in a tremendous effort to carry all those items upstairs, which nearly filled half of their dorm room. When Wang Chung returned, he turned around at the bottom of the building and noticed that everyone was looking at him. A group of male and female students was pointing and whispering. It was him, Wang Chung, a junior in electronic information, who not only slept during the exam but also tried to hit someone, before swaggering away. Yes, all those items were bought by him. Look at what he is carrying. A bag full of toy guns. My goodness, does he think the apocalypse is coming? Hoarding so many supplies so recklessly? What is he planning to do? It seems he has suddenly gone mad, wanting to use the dorm as a stronghold to confront the entire school. A group of students laughed in the corner, but in front of Wang Chung. They dared not laugh too loudly. Undoubtedly, Wang Chung had become the topic of conversation and a laughingstock, and his name was quickly spreading throughout the school. Soon, he would likely become the most famous person at Haicheng University, more renowned than those campus stars. Previously, Wang Chung had thought about winning scholarships or awards to make a name for himself in school, but he never imagined he would become famous like this. However, Wang Chung didn't care anymore. His later purchase of toy guns was an additional plan, and by the time he returned to school, it was already past 5 o'clock. There was less than an hour left before the apocalypse was expected to begin. Wang Chung quickened his pace and hurried forward. His counselors seemed to have heard he was back and directly bombarded him with multiple calls, 7 or 8 in a row. When Wang Chung answered, he simply said, "Counselor, find a place to hide quickly," and then hung up with a bang. At first, the counselor was furious, and through the phone, one could almost feel his spittle flying. Wang Chung, are you rebelling? Do you want to continue studying? I'm trying to help you, and you dare to hang up on me? But later, it turned into, what on earth is going on? Where do you want to hide? Have you encountered something? The counselor was startled by Wang Cheng's determined tone, repeatedly asking the same question, doubting whether Wang Chung had really lost his mind, while also wondering if something truly was about to happen. Meanwhile, the focus of attention, Wang Chung, had already stepped into the elevator. He doesn't care much about others' opinions or discussions, nor does he mind his own high-profile behavior. In fact, he's not even afraid of others knowing about his rebirth. Because, in the face of disaster, in the face of life and death, these things don't matter. When calamity strikes, the whole world will be reshuffled, the strong will survive, and the weak will perish. As he stepped into the elevator, others quickly moved away as if he were carrying a plague. When he returned to the 7th floor, the situation improved somewhat. Wang Chung was already in his 3rd year, and most of the neighbors on the 7th floor were familiar with each other, maintaining a decent relationship. Seeing Wang Chung come back, several people approached him, chattering with questions. Whoa, Lao Wang, what's going on? Buying so much food is one thing, but what's with all these toy guns? You better go find a counselor, asked Yang Shu, the class monitor from room 708, looking worried. Haha, I think Lao Wang is planning to have a gunfight with all of us. Another lean guy named Li Jie chimed in, someone who had never gotten along well with Wang Chung. More and more familiar faces gathered around as time was running short. Wang Chung stopped in his tracks and directly said, "The apocalypse is indeed coming, and my preparations are for that. You all better get ready too. At 6 o'clock sharp, there will be mutated beings appearing in our building." Wang Cheng's gaze swept over the people in front of him. Many of them would undergo mutations. Even if the mutated beings were killed before their transformation, they would still come back to life in another form. Therefore, even though Wang Cheng knew who would become a mutated being, he couldn't take action beforehand. If he did, others would be confused and might subdue him instead, leading to significant trouble. After all, although Wang Chung was a reborn individual, he had only been reborn for 3 days, possessing an informational advantage but lacking physical strength or combat capability. There was no need to create trouble for himself. What he needed to do was hide in the dormitory and rely on his informational advantage to develop cautiously. This was also why, after his rebirth, Wang Cheng chose to stay in the dormitory to face the apocalypse. Although there were dangers lurking in the university town, he was familiar with it from his previous life, which was much better than rushing to build a stronghold elsewhere. Of course, the most crucial reason was that Wang Cheng simply didn't have much time to prepare. At this moment, he no longer concealed information, partly because the apocalypse was imminent, and partly because others wouldn't be blind to the fact that he had stocked up on so many supplies. Unless they were foolish, they would realize that Wang Cheng had known about the impending apocalypse in advance. So, it was better to just say it now. However, Wang Cheng would stop there and wouldn't specify who would become a mutated being. He seemed eccentric, but his thoughts were quite clear. Upon hearing Wang Cheng's statement, the people around him erupted in disbelief. Whoa, Wang Cheng, are you really losing it? Saying the apocalypse is coming. Are you joking? Don't tell me you bought those toy guns to fight against the apocalypse. Wang Cheng spoke earnestly, but the toy guns he was holding lacked any persuasive power. Stockpiling supplies could be said to prepare for the apocalypse, but gathering a bunch of toy guns to face it? Wasn't that a joke? Crazy, Wang Cheng. You are definitely out of your mind. Wang Cheng, go back to your dormitory first. I'll help you contact the counselor and get you to the hospital right away. Yang Shu immediately took out his phone. At that moment, Su Xinghai emerged from the crowd, quickly taking the items from Wang Cheng's hands and pulling him toward dormitory 703. Located by the window at the end of the corridor, fearing that Wang Cheng would be drowned in spit, he shut the dormitory door heavily. Inside the four-person dormitory, it was filled with supplies. The leader Su Xinghai, the third Zhang Chao, and the fourth Hu Yiming all looked at him with concern. Hu Yiming said, "Second brother, you're not really out of your mind, are you? We should hurry to the hospital." Su Xinghai replied, "It's fine, whether there's a problem or not. Let's just assume there is. Then today's incident at the exam hall will be forgotten." "Second brother, why are you just looking at your watch and not saying anything? Don't scare us." Li Jia was blabbering about how the second brother had gone crazy everywhere. The atmosphere in dormitory 703 was great. The few of them had been together for 3 years and were like brothers. The concern from the three for Wang Cheng was genuine. Meanwhile, just one door away, news of Wang Cheng's madness was spreading rapidly. Li Jia, with a flair for drama, eagerly promoted the story of Wang Cheng's insanity. He even took a photo of Wang Cheng at some point and uploaded it to several groups, which other gossipers then shared. Soon, the big group chat was filled with images of Wang Cheng standing in the dormitory corridor with a pile of toy guns, declaring that the apocalypse was coming. In dormitory 703, Wang Cheng had gone mad, claiming that the end of the world was near and he had bought a bunch of toy guns to fight it. Many expressed concern, but more were mocking. "Ha ha ha, what a joke. I believe the apocalypse is coming, but fighting it with toy guns? What nonsense. Ha ha. I can't stop laughing. If toy guns could fight the apocalypse, then I could just spit and shatter a planet. Is this Wang Cheng the same one who caused a ruckus at the exam hall today? Looks like he's pretending to be crazy to avoid punishment from the school." Seeing these messages, Su Xinghai angrily said, "How can these people from the same school talk like this?" But Wang Cheng remained silent. He quietly stared at the mechanical watch on his wrist. There was still 1 minute left until 6 o'clock. The global apocalypse was about to erupt. Chapter 4. The first drop of blood. The first howl came from the far end of the city. Though the sound wasn't very loud, it was piercing, especially in the evening rush hour. Many people looked around in confusion, trying to locate the source of this chilling, inhuman sound, but no one knew what was happening. Wang Cheng, however, understood clearly that this howl would mark the beginning of everything. Order would collapse, civilization would vanish, the apocalypse surged forward, and everyone would flee. Wang Cheng felt a strange sensation, as if an invisible ripple had suddenly come from an infinite distance, swiftly sweeping past him and then racing back to the infinite. It was as if some kind of light wave was scanning the entire planet at the speed of light. Wang Cheng was certain that he had never experienced such a feeling during the last apocalypse. What just passed over me? Is it because I have a system that I can feel this? At that moment, several of his roommates surrounding him instinctively looked out the window. Zhang Chao exclaimed, "What the hell is that? It's a bit terrifying." In the corner, Wang Cheng slowly reached back and grasped a long, narrow kitchen knife he had bought from the supermarket, which he had tucked behind him. Without energy points, those toy guns remained just that, toy guns, and could not be upgraded to real firearms through the system. Therefore, this knife was the only thing within reach at that moment. Wang Cheng's gaze was fixed firmly on Hu Yiming, the fourth member of their dorm. Suddenly, Hu Yiming, who was standing at the back, showed an expression of pain and stepped back, saying, "Brothers, I think I'm feeling a bit unwell." The enthusiastic leader, Su Xinghai, immediately stepped forward. "Old four, how are you? The second one just went crazy. You can't have any issues too. We should go to the hospital together." His words were cut short as Hu Yiming let out a piercing scream. He fell backward, clutching his head, and in a horrifying spectacle, he began to scratch at his scalp frantically, causing Su Xinghai and Zhang Chao to feel chills. To their shock, Hu Yiming easily pulled out large clumps of his own hair and scalp, blood everywhere, his skin visibly pale, and his eyes rolled back. Call for help. Old Four. Are you okay? Zhang Chao rushed forward, trying to hold Hu Yiming's hands, but at that moment, Hu Yiming's body, which was struggling on the ground, suddenly sprang up in a way that defied human physical limits. With a terrifying tearing sound, his head split open in the center, his mouth elongated into a bloody, cross-shaped gaping maw, and jagged fangs emerged in a grotesque manner, lunging towards Zhang Chao, who was standing nearby. A mutated being. This is a mutated being. Both Su Xinghai and Zhang Chao, being ordinary college students, had never witnessed such a scene. They were frozen in fear, with Zhang Chao watching helplessly as the creature lunged at him. Wang Cheng's eyes turned blood red. This scene was all too familiar to him, reminiscent of the apocalypse that had just begun before his rebirth. During the apocalypse, influenced by unknown global mutations, Hu Yiming had transformed into a mutated being, brutally devouring their helpful roommate, the third member. Subsequently, the third member, Zhang Chao, who was bitten to death, also mutated and resurrected as another mutated being. Wang Cheng and Su Xinghai had to exert tremendous effort to slay them, and these two roommates had provided Wang Cheng with the first lesson of the apocalypse. Without their deaths to make him aware of the dire reality of the end times, Wang Cheng might not have survived even 3 days. In that dormitory of 4, only Wang Cheng and Su Xinghai remained by dawn. But this time, everything from his memories didn't happen again. The city erupted with a roar as Wang Cheng sprang from his bed, colliding with the fully mutated Hu Yiming. In that critical moment, they both fell to the ground. The precious information he had gathered during his 3 days of survival in his previous life surged in Wang Cheng's mind. These mutants were at their most vulnerable right after their transformation, as it was incomplete and they hadn't fed on flesh to replenish their strength. Aside from their terrifying appearance, they were only slightly stronger than ordinary people. This was the best time to kill them. However, if their transformation lasted more than 15 minutes, or if they had consumed a lot of food, they would continue to mutate. And even the weakest mutants would possess combat abilities far beyond what ordinary people could handle. Even 5 or 6 Wang Chengs might not be able to defeat a fully transformed mutant. This was the best opportunity. Wang Cheng tackled Hu Yiming, raising the dagger in his hand, and with a roar, he plunged it into the head of Hu Yiming, whose skull was already cracking and the fissure expanding. Blood splattered as the dagger pierced through his eye, slicing cleanly down through his twisted, pale face and ultimately severing his neck, causing his head to roll away. Hu Yiming's mutated body twitched violently before finally going still. Wang Cheng gasped for breath. At the moment he struck, he hesitated for a brief moment, not because he wanted to, but because this was his friend, his roommate. They had lived together for many years and shared a close bond. Including today, Wang Cheng had already killed Hu Yiming twice. As a human, he would hesitate. There was a mental barrier to overcome, but Wang Cheng still delivered the blow. He wanted to survive. Perhaps before his rebirth, he still held onto a sliver of hope, thinking everything would turn out fine and that he didn't need to change anything, just wait for someone powerful to save him. But after experiencing death firsthand, Wang Cheng's mind became extraordinarily clear. He understood. This was the apocalypse, a global catastrophe. Relying on others for hope was a path to self-destruction. In his previous life, if he and Su Xinghai hadn't foolishly waited for rescue in the dormitory, they wouldn't have met such a tragic end. In the apocalypse, only blood could be met with blood. To strike the blade was to secure his own survival. With that strike, Wang Cheng severed the cowardice and baseless thoughts in his heart. He wanted to become a qualified survivor of the apocalypse. He needed to live, and he needed to find his parents. For that, he was willing to pay any price. Did you kill the fourth? No, what happened? How did the fourth become a monster? You reacted so quickly just now. Did you already know he was going to turn into a monster? Is what you said about the apocalypse true? In the dormitory, Zhang Chao and Su Xinghai looked on in horror at the scene before them. Everything had happened too quickly. They found it hard to believe and were struggling to process it. However, countless terrifying screams echoed from the dormitory, the campus, and every corner of the city. The evening streets were filled with crazed monsters. A massive car crash ensued, with countless mutated beings frantically devouring the living on the streets. Those who were lucky enough not to be completely consumed would soon stagger back to their feet, their heads splitting in two with a terrifying sound as their eyes rolled back, lunging towards other living beings. In the dormitory building and on campus, screams echoed everywhere. Even more horrifying was the sight of plants and animals beginning to mutate. Not far away, at the edge of the city, a series of huge explosions rang out, mixing with the sounds of sirens and ambulances, gradually being drowned out by the howls of the boiling mutations. At this moment, Su Xinghai and Zhang Chao realized that this world had been engulfed by the terrifying cries. Even in their dormitory, screams and wails filled the air. Just outside the door of room 703, Blood smeared the ground as countless people ran in panic, as if being relentlessly pursued by some dreadful creature facing a massacre. Ultimately, their gaze fell upon Wang Chung nearby. Wang Chung, half covered in blood, was slowly getting up, with too much he wanted to say. But at that moment, a sound rang in his ears, a notification from the system. Dear host, you have successfully hunted a high-energy being. Energy points gained, 1. Current remaining energy points, 1. You can use energy points to upgrade your warship, weapons, or other equipment. The energy points required for upgrades vary by material, quality, and size of the items, and the specific cost will be prompted during the upgrade. Hearing this notification, Wang Cheng's heart raced. Indeed, these mutations were high-energy beings. Killing them could earn energy points. Could he upgrade his toy gun to a real one? Chapter 5, Upgrade. Titanium Alloy Tactical Dagger. Thinking of this, Wang Chung felt a surge of excitement. Humanity's strength lies in the use of tools, and firearms can be considered the most powerful killing instruments developed in human civilization. If he could get a gun, his combat and survival abilities would see a significant boost. However, now was not the time to ponder this. He glanced at Su Xinghai and Zhang Chao, who still looked dazed, and said, I know the apocalypse is coming, but I don't know exactly what will happen. I just saw the fourth one turn into that, and I'm worried about the third. I acted rashly. What on earth is going on? Wang Qing couldn't explain the matter of rebirth and had to gloss over it. Zhang Chao's face turned pale as he realized his phone had no signal. Second brother, you were right. The apocalypse is really here. How did you know? What should we do? The fourth's body. Outside. My God, come to the window quickly. Su Xinghai, however, looked skeptical. Being the oldest, he sensed there was more to Wang Cheng's words. But before he could say anything, a loud bang suddenly came from the door of room 703. Bang. It seemed someone had slammed against the dormitory door. Help! Help! Haicheng University is a decent institution, but the dormitory doors are not security doors. They are just simple wooden doors. Outside, a person in distress is frantically pounding and shouting, their cries sounding more like the wails of a tortured creature than anything human. Zhang Chao's face turns pale with fear. What should we do? Su Xinghai grabs a mop as a weapon and rushes to the door, only to hear the cries for help abruptly cut off by a chilling scream, followed by horrific sounds of flesh being torn apart. It's as if some wild beast is violently panting, gnawing on raw meat, and swallowing it piece by piece. Because they are so close, just a door away. The chaos inside the dormitory is loud, but the sounds from outside are still very clear. Zhang Chao, trembling, whispers, blood. His voice is low, suppressing his terror. Too afraid to speak loudly. A pool of fresh blood is seeping in through the crack under door 703. What is happening outside is all too obvious. Su Xinghai instinctively pulls his foot back from the door, retreating step by step, shaking his head at Wang Chung and Zhang Chao, terrified of alerting the monster outside. They cannot open the door. They absolutely cannot go out. Su Xinghai's face is pale as he communicates with Wang Chung and Zhang Chao using his lips. His reaction is already quite rational and calm under such drastic circumstances. Given the situation, he is doing remarkably well. Wang Chung, however, is undoubtedly even more composed. Although he lived only 3 days before his rebirth, the experience he gained in those 3 days is sufficient for him to adapt. He has just wiped some blood off his face. The mutated creatures only cause normal people to mutate if they are killed. Mere contact, or even accidentally ingesting their blood, does not trigger mutation. At the same time, Wang Chung is rummaging through the toy gun he purchased. Thanks to the system, he knows that toy guns can be upgraded to real firearms, so he nearly bought out the entire stock at that toy store. Unfortunately, according to the store owner, realistic toy guns are heavily regulated now, so even with his bulk purchase, he didn't acquire many. In total, he has 2 handguns, a shotgun, 5 rifles, a sniper rifle, and 3 or 4 solid fake grenades. Rifles sell the best, so he has the most of those. There are also various bullets that look quite similar to real ones, but they are all made of plastic, which Wang Qing also complained about while buying. The first weapon he decides to upgrade is the shotgun. In the cramped conditions of the dormitory, the shotgun is the best weapon for confronting the mutated creatures. Wang Chung places his arm up, calling upon the system to upgrade, only to be stunned. Upgrading the shotgun requires 20 energy points. It suddenly dawns on him that he had been overly optimistic. What can 1 energy point do? He quickly sweeps his hand over the various weapons, discovering that upgrading a grenade requires 5 energy points, while both the shotgun and rifle need 20, and a handgun requires 10 energy points. The cheapest are the bullets, where 1 energy point can upgrade 10 rounds. Wang Chung almost spat blood in frustration. After a round of searching, he found that there were very few things he could upgrade with just 1 energy point. The long kitchen knife in his hand and his anti-blue light glasses were among the few options. It seemed that he could only try upgrading the long kitchen knife first. Wang Chung had bought quite a few kitchen tools from the supermarket, primarily kitchen supplies. He picked the best and most expensive one to carry with him. This long kitchen knife cost a total of $368. The length was just right, and it felt good in his hand. However, when he used it to stab the mutated Hu Yiming, the blade began to dull. Moreover, when Wang Cheng had just cut into Hu Yiming's body, he also felt a lack of sharpness. There was no way around it. Cutting vegetables and killing a living person were two entirely different concepts. Just then, a heavy crashing sound came again. But this time, there were no cries for help. The mutated creature outside had just devoured the unfortunate student who had called for help, and it caught the scent of blood coming from Hu Yiming in room 703. It was desperately trying to break down the door. The old dormitory door shook violently. It wouldn't hold for long. What should they do? Having been discovered, Su Xinghai no longer kept his voice low and spoke anxiously. They could not let it break in, or their dormitory would lose its only barrier. Wang Chen coldly spoke. Lifting the items he had brought from the supermarket, I have kitchen knives and boning knives here. You all take a few that are handy. We'll open the door and kill that monster outside, then get rid of the fourth S body. Su Xinghai was the first to start rummaging through the items. You're amazing. I thought you were crazy just now. Without your preparations, we'd probably be empty-handed. Zhang Qiao also bent down to look for weapons. They were both a bit flustered, with a lot to say, but the current situation required them to first get through this crisis. Taking advantage of their focus on the supplies, Wang Cheng quietly stepped back, pressing his hand against the long kitchen knife, and called out to the system, upgrade the current kitchen knife. Kitchen knife upgrade starting. Your kitchen knife is currently at level 1. Please select an upgrade direction. 1. Weapon. 2. Kitchenware. Wang Cheng was a bit surprised. If this were peacetime, wouldn't he have the chance to upgrade to a world-class kitchen knife and become rich? However, with the mutated creatures so close, he didn't have time to think more. He silently chose to upgrade towards the weapon direction. A white light lit up once more, but this time it was brief. It only consumed 1 energy point, so the upgrade wouldn't take long. By the time Zhang Qiao and Su Xinghai found their weapons, Wang Cheng's knife had already completed its upgrade, reaching level 2. At this moment, the long kitchen knife in his hand was no longer dull. Both sides were sharpened, becoming incredibly sharp and significantly lighter in weight. Dear host, your kitchen knife has been upgraded. It is now a titanium alloy tactical dagger, level 2. Seeing this prompt, Wang Cheng's heart skipped a beat. A steel knife had directly transformed into a titanium alloy one. No wonder it had become lighter. Moreover, its structure and purpose were no longer that of a kitchen knife, but rather a true tactical dagger, a weapon for hunting. Wow, this was like turning a bicycle into a motorcycle. At this moment, Zhang Qiao and Su Xinghai had already chosen their weapons and stood up. Su Xinghai was a bit taken aback. Was that knife in your hand just now? There was no time to waste. They needed to prepare to open the door and deal with the monster outside first. Wang Cheng did not explain, turning back coldly. They hadn't actually delayed for long. Less than a minute had passed, and the dormitory door was already crumbling. Through the cracks in the broken door, they could see the mutated creature outside, its skull split in half, with hands transformed into claw-like appendages, frantically scratching and banging, ready to break in at any moment. Su Xinghai and Zhang Qiao were both trembling slightly. They felt that Wang Cheng seemed a bit unfamiliar today. Wang Cheng was being too bold. After just killing the mutated Hu Yiming, he was now the first to approach the door. However, they didn't notice that Wang Cheng's hand gripping the knife was also shaking. He had prepared himself for a fight against the mutated creature, but he was just an ordinary person. Even with determination, fear was hard to suppress. He knew he couldn't show it. If he was afraid, Su Xinghai and Zhang Qiao would be even more terrified. Everyone was fearful. If they truly faced the mutated being, it would be a disastrous defeat, and they would undoubtedly perish. Just a door away, the mutated creature was roaring furiously. Who would kill whom would soon be revealed. Chapter 6. Hunting the mutated creature. The wooden dormitory door let out a mournful creak under the pressure. Compared to humans, the mutated creatures were more like beasts. They learned and grew through fighting and hunting. The one outside seemed initially unsure how to exert force to break down the door in the shortest time possible, but as time passed, it began to grasp the technique little by little. The plaster on the walls started to crumble. Wang Cheng and the others exchanged glances at the door. Timing was crucial. Zhang Qiao pulled the door open forcefully. The mutated creature was retreating, preparing for another charge. As the door was pulled open from the inside, it seemed momentarily stunned. Lu Jiaming. Su Xinghai's face turned pale as he recognized that the monster outside, with its head split in two, was their classmate from the next dorm. But Lu Jiaming was no longer the friend they knew. He had become a monster, howling and lunging forward with a gaping maw. Su Xinghai reacted quickly, leaping forward to tightly grasp the creature's leg, causing its body to pitch forward uncontrollably. Zhang Qiao then threw a large quilt he had pulled from the side over the mutated creature, trying to cover its claws and restrict its most powerful means of attack. Then, Wang Cheng struck again, plunging his knife into the creature's skull. The titanium alloy tactical dagger, having evolved, was clearly different from the ordinary fruit knife he had used earlier. It sliced through the creature's head effortlessly, like cutting vegetables, cleaving its face in half and severing its skull. Blood splattered as its body convulsed violently before finally going still. The tactical dagger was stained with blood, yet showed no signs of wear. A kitchen knife is just a kitchen knife, but upgraded, it becomes a titanium tactical dagger, a true weapon for killing. Zhang Chao gasped heavily, still in shock. Just moments ago, the thick comforter in his hands had been shredded by the mutated creature, coming dangerously close to slashing his chest. He had no doubt that if it made contact, his clothes and chest would be torn apart. Meanwhile, Wang Cheng quickly disposed of the bodies of the two monsters and glanced outside near the dormitory door. The familiar corridor on the 7th floor of the dormitory had turned into hell. Some dorm room doors were tightly shut, while others were wide open, with screams coming from within. Students were running frantically in the corridor, completely panicked, most heading towards the stairs and elevators. However, at the end of the corridor where room 703 was located, there were surprisingly few people and monsters. Blood splattered the walls and ceiling, and some mutated creatures were already feasting on their prey, devouring it with gusto. Others were chasing fleeing students, while some wandered like ghosts, hovering in front of the tightly closed dormitory doors. If any students hiding inside made even the slightest sound in their terror, the creatures would swarm over, crashing into the doors. The mutated creatures had poor eyesight, relying mostly on smell and hearing. The smell of blood permeated the entire 7th floor, and the scent inside the rooms failed to attract them. At that moment, a mutated creature, gnawing on a hapless victim near the door of room 702, seemed to sense something and abruptly turned its head towards the direction of room 703. But it found nothing. The door to room 703 was tightly shut. Wang Cheng had long retreated into the room. Zhang Chao sat on the floor, nervously fiddling with his phone, while Su Xinghai leaned by the window, holding a boning knife, staring blankly at the scene outside, murmuring, "The apocalypse has really come." Eventually, their gazes fell on Wang Cheng. He had foretold the arrival of the apocalypse. "The signal is down, the power is out, I can't contact my parents at all," Zhang Chao said. "Brother, what on earth is happening?" Wang Cheng could only shake his head. Even if he wanted to say something, he couldn't find the words. In his previous life, he had only survived until the 3rd day, without even stepping out of the dormitory. If he really knew something, perhaps he could have saved Hu Yiming from mutating. At that moment, a system notification rang in his ears, indicating that he had just earned a unit of energy points for killing the mutated creature. This lifted Wang Cheng's spirits. Staying in the dormitory was the right choice. There were numerous mutated creatures here. If he could successfully hunt them, he could turn them all into energy points. As the saying goes, fortune favors the bold. Before the apocalypse, one could hide in less populated areas where there would be fewer mutated creatures, but not only would he be unfamiliar with the terrain, the speed of accumulating energy points would also slow down. Without the system, Wang Cheng would have chosen to hide, but with the system, why hide? He needed to accumulate energy points and upgrade infinitely. Ultimately, to achieve longevity, one must possess sufficient strength. Su Xinghai leaned against the side and said, "I also tried, but couldn't get in touch. Sai, second brother, I should have listened to you earlier. We need to keep our family safe no matter what. It seems like the apocalypse has truly arrived, but what should we do now?" Zhang Chao listened to the terrifying howls echoing from the corridor just a door away, feeling a lingering fear. "Yes, second brother, what should we do now? We should be temporarily safe here, but outside are those monsters." After killing 2 mutated creatures, Wang Cheng had become the backbone within the dormitory. They were all filled with dread. The dormitory next door had turned into hell, and who knows how many terrifying monsters were wandering inside that building. At that moment, Wang Cheng raised his head. He had already made up his mind to hunt the mutated creatures and said directly, "We will hunt those mutated creatures. We will carve out a bloody path." Su Xinghai and Zhang Chao were both taken aback. The terrifying forms of Lu Jiaming and Hu Yiming in their mutated states flashed before their eyes. "Those are monsters. Are we really going out to hunt them? Shouldn't we wait for rescue?" Zhang Chao exclaimed. "Wow, I didn't realize you were this tough." Both were surprised. They hadn't expected Wang Cheng to be so brave. Everyone was just an ordinary student, and they were already scared out of their wits. Wang Cheng had personally killed 2 mutated creatures, and now he dared to go out and hunt. Inside the dormitory, outside, most people were fleeing for their lives, becoming prey to the mutated creatures. Yet in front of them, Wang Cheng boldly declared that he wanted to turn the tables and hunt these monsters. Their surprise turned into a complex mix of emotions. They thought everyone was more or less the same in school, but they hadn't realized that Wang Cheng was hiding such a fierce side. He even carried a tactical dagger with him. Zhang Chao couldn't help but ask, "Second brother, you're not from a military family, are you? Did you practice since you were young?" You were fierce when you killed those two mutated creatures just now. And now you want to go hunt those monsters? We're on the 7th floor. If we don't kill those monsters, we can't get downstairs. Although I bought a lot of things at the supermarket, we will just consume them without a plan, Wang Cheng said, switching to persuasion mode. Listening to Zhang Chao's words, Wang Cheng felt something strange in his heart. Su Xinghai said, Old Wang, do you think the military and police will come to rescue us? Our dormitory is located quite deep. Those monsters may not reach us right away. Maybe we can hide here for a few hours while waiting for rescue. Wang Cheng clearly remembered that on the night the apocalypse broke out, they heard gunfire in the city, and for the next 2 days, the gunfire was like popping beans. However, regrettably, until the moment Wang Cheng died, the gunfire was still far from them. Therefore, he simply shook his head at this question. Su Xinghai looked deeply at Wang Cheng. He was calmer and more rational than Zhang Chao. Although Wang Cheng said nothing, as a roommate who had been through this together, Su Xinghai felt that Wang Cheng must know some information about the apocalypse that he hadn't shared. However, having been close friends for so long, Su Xinghai believed that Wang Cheng had his reasons for not speaking. What he needs to do is trust. Su Xinghai said, When Li Jie and the others talked about you, I thought you were crazy too, but now it turns out we were the fools. You are right. Sitting and waiting is just waiting for death. If it really is the end of the world, everyone will be too busy taking care of themselves. Even if there are troops, by the time they come to our rescue, we might have already been torn apart by the monsters on this floor. Fear won't solve the problem. We will eventually have to face those monsters. The narrow corridor of our dormitory is perfect for us to practice hunting those monsters. Third brother, let's listen to the second brother. Those monsters are quite powerful, so let's work together and hunt them. Zhang Chao glanced at Su Xinghai, then at Wang Cheng. To be honest, he felt a bit scared. If someone else had said this to him, he would have backed down immediately. But this was a brother from the dormitory. Gritting his teeth, he said, All right, let's fight those monsters. We've already killed a couple. Are we afraid we can't kill more? Second brother, without you, I would have already been dead. I'm with you. Let's carve out a bloody path. Wang Cheng nodded, gripping his titanium alloy tactical dagger tightly. Glancing out the window, it's almost dark. Before it gets dark, it's the best time for us to hunt. Once it gets dark, we retreat immediately. In the early days of the apocalypse, the abilities of the mutated beings are at their weakest. Taking advantage of this time to act, the three of them can hone their survival skills. Staying in the dormitory would be the best choice. Inside and outside the dormitory building, countless students and teachers were fleeing in panic, chased by mutated creatures. But who knew that in the corner of the boys' dormitory, Wang Cheng and the others had already shifted their mindset and were ready to go out and fight. Chapter 7. Upgrade the handgun. With a creaking sound, the door of room 703 was slowly pushed open from the inside. Wang Cheng was the first to peek out, not fully stepping outside, but scanning the corridor with his eyes. Su Xinghai and Zhang Chao closely followed behind him, gripping their weapons tightly, extremely tense. Their dormitory building was structured in a long strip, divided by a central stairwell and elevator shaft, with 7 dormitories on each side having a bathroom and washing room. The entire corridor appeared long and dim, with blood smeared on the ground and severed limbs scattered everywhere, presenting a scene of death unlike any before. Wang Cheng's dormitory was at the far left end of the corridor, providing a clear view of the entire hallway. The massacre on the 7th floor corridor had not yet ended. Terrifying screams were coming from the restroom, where a group of monsters was attacking a hapless student. Other dormitories were also under siege. At the stairwell, 3 mutated beings were surrounding a student lying on the ground, roaring ferociously. He was a boy from the Tai Chi club, wielding a sword and swinging it desperately. One of his legs had already been torn off, the bone visible, blood gushing out, and his pale face displayed infinite terror. The 3 mutated beings surrounding him seemed less afraid of the sword in his hand and more like they were enjoying the hunt. Seeing this scene, Zhang Chao began to have second thoughts. Should we just forget it? Su Xinghai shook his head. This is an opportunity. These monsters are currently distracted by others. If we wait until most of the people on this floor have been killed before we think about hunting, we might alert all the monsters on this floor. And then we would be doomed. Now is the best time to act. Su Xinghai was rational and clear-headed. In his previous life, he had actually persuaded the terrified Wang Cheng to regain his composure. As a teammate, Su Xinghai was incredibly reliable, and given their roommate relationship, he was a trustworthy partner. The mutated beings had extraordinary physical abilities, and Wang Cheng only had a tactical dagger, which made it uncertain whether he could take one down without sustaining injuries. However, if the 3 of them worked together, their chances would greatly increase. Wang Cheng took a deep breath. The first target is the one in room 706. Once we succeed, head to the bathroom and catch the mutated being inside, like catching a turtle in a jar. Just as we discussed, I will take the lead. Su Xinghai and Zhang Chao, you help me restrain the movements of those mutated beings. I'm going. Su Xinghai took a deep breath. Let's go? Wait, I haven't even, wow. You guys are already going in. Isn't that too bold? Everyone else is running for their lives. Are we really going to confront these mutated beings head-on? They spoke in low voices, afraid of alerting the mutated beings. Meanwhile, Wang Chung had already charged ahead, rushing toward the mutated being in room 702, gripping his weapon tightly. The mutated being in 706 was still gnawing on a corpse on the ground, having consumed most of it, leaving no bones untouched, which it tore apart with its numerous teeth and swallowed. Suddenly, it raised its head, pushed off the ground, and lunged forward like a beast. Its strength and speed were clearly superior to the previous two. However, Wang Chung only feigned a shot to distract it. While it was focused on him, Su Xinghai stepped forward boldly and thrust his mop stick into the mutated being's large mouth. The powerful impact knocked Su Xinghai to the ground. But the mutated being paused for a moment, its massive jaws closing and biting off a section of the mop stick. But that was already enough. Wang Chung closed in like lightning, raising his dagger without hesitation to deliver a clean kill. The mutated being fell to the ground. A painful howl echoed from the end of the corridor. A student from the Tai Chi club was overwhelmed by 3 mutated beings, who tore off his arms and bit into his head, resulting in a sickening crack as his skull shattered, blood and brain matter splattering everywhere. Wang Chung then turned his attention to room 702. To his surprise, there was another mutated being inside. It appeared to have transformed after being killed. It had no arms, and half of its head was decayed. It seemed disoriented, bizarrely standing in room 702, banging its head against the wall, producing loud thuds. At first glance, everyone was horrified. But then they realized that this monster posed no threat. Wang Chung approached and slashed the creature's neck. 2 energy points secured. Immediately after, Wang Chung dashed toward room 705 next to his own room 703. In room 705, 2 mutated creatures were tearing at each other, both badly injured and clearly weaker than normal variants. Zhang Chao and Su Xinghai worked together to eliminate them. The energy points in Wang Chung had accumulated to a total of 5. Su Xinghai looked at the corpses on the ground and sighed, saying, "This is Old Li. His family is poor and relied on him to graduate from university and earn money." But after being with Wang Chung, he ended up killing 6 mutated creatures. Su Xinghai and Zhang Chao's fear had noticeably decreased, and Zhang Chao even felt invigorated, saying, "Let us go for more, let us kill again. We should check the restroom. Someone seems to be trapped over there," Su Xinghai suggested. Diagonally across from room 705, the door of room 704 was tightly shut, seemingly unbreached, with students hiding inside, including Li Jie and others. They were lucky. All 4 in their dorm had not mutated. Upon noticing something was amiss, they immediately closed the door and locked the room, refusing to go out or rescue anyone. They heard various strange noises outside, their hearts racing, when one chubby boy said, "I think I just heard the mutated creature's wails. Do you think someone outside has killed one? Should we go take a look?" Li Jie replied, "How is that possible? Those monsters can't be killed. We absolutely cannot open the door." Another boy chimed in, "I think I heard it too. Could it be Wang Chung? He said the apocalypse was coming, and it really has. Maybe he has a way to kill those monsters." "Stop thinking about it. I know that Wang Chung very well. He looks so skinny. How could he kill those monsters? He's just talking nonsense, and that's why things have turned out like this. If he could handle it, he would have done so by now. If you want to go out, go ahead, but don't blame me for not warning you. If you go out and get chased by monsters, I want to open the door for you," Li Jie said, his face full of fear, forcing himself to sound calm and rational, dispelling the other's thoughts. The 4 students huddled in a corner, terrified, not daring to make a sound. Meanwhile, outside, Wang Chung and his group had already entered the restroom. The cries for help had just ceased, and 3 monsters were roaming around, their attention focused on one stall, unaware of Wang Chung and his team approaching from behind, who quickly dispatched them. 8 energy points. Wang Chung glanced out the window and saw a student jumping to their death from the restroom. The person hiding inside, not waiting for Wang Chung's arrival, jumped out in panic and fell to their death. The sky grew darker, but the hunt for mutated creatures was surprisingly smooth. These variants were not fully evolved and were far weaker than Wang Chung remembered they would be in 3 days. With the help of Su Xinghai and Zhang Chao, they had fought their way through without sustaining any injuries. Next, their target was the 3 mutated creatures in the stairwell that had been preying on students from the Taiji club. Wang Chung personally took action to attract their attention. When they pounced on him frantically, he didn't hesitate to turn and run, leading them into a relatively small restroom. Hidden inside, Su Xinghai and Zhang Chao rushed out in an instant, using a mop and broom to restrict their movements, while Wang Chung counterattacked and severed their necks. The titanium alloy tactical dagger proved to be extremely useful. Its formidable lethality and sharpness provided Wang Chung with immense support, allowing him to seize the opportunity and deliver a fatal blow in the shortest time possible. Otherwise, if he had used an ordinary fruit knife, which was so dull, He would have been torn apart before he could even cut through the mutated creature's neck. However, the direct confrontation with the three mutated creatures still brought them considerable trouble. Wang Cheng's right hand was struck by a mutated claw, leaving a 2-centimeter gash, with flesh torn and blood gushing out. The intense pain surged into his mind after a few seconds, and combined with the fatigue from continuous fighting, Wang Cheng nearly dropped the knife. He relied entirely on Su Xinghai and Zhang Chao to help him back to his dormitory. Under Wang Cheng's guidance, Su Xinghai and Zhang Chao hurriedly searched through the pile of items he had bought for medical supplies. Despite the pain from the wound, Wang Cheng felt a surge of excitement in his heart. He had finally accumulated a total of 11 energy points. He could upgrade his pistol. Once he had a firearm, he could shoot mutated creatures from a distance, eliminating the need for close combat and significantly reducing the danger. Without hesitation, Wang Cheng grasped the pistol and called for the system. Consume 10 energy points to upgrade the pistol. Chapter 8. Gunshots between the dormitory buildings. Scanning toy gun. Upgrade about to begin. Estimated upgrade time, 15 seconds. 10 energy points for the upgrade have been deducted. Your current item upgrade options. 1. Toy direction. 2. Weapon direction. Can it still be upgraded to a toy? A high-end toy pistol? Wang Cheng decisively chose the weapon direction for the upgrade. The familiar white light instantly enveloped the entire toy gun. The higher the item's level, the more energy points required for the upgrade, and the longer the time taken. Upgrading a kitchen knife doesn't take much time, but a toy gun does. However, 15 seconds passed in the blink of an eye, and Wang Cheng only felt a weight in his hand. The toy pistol, which was already quite refined, had become even heavier, and its texture was different. It truly felt like a solid weapon now. Dear host, your toy pistol has been successfully upgraded to a 9mm standard pistol with a magazine capacity of 7 rounds. And it is now level 2. This pistol differed somewhat from the real firearms Wang Cheng had seen. It clearly had not transformed into any known type of gun. Instead, the template of the toy gun had upgraded into a real firearm, but its magazine capacity was quite small. He felt a stir in his heart as he placed his hand on the gun and discovered that it could still be upgraded. However, the next level would require 20 energy points, a direct doubling. What would the next upgrade entail? Increased capacity or transformation into a laser gun? As he thought of this, Wang Cheng felt a surge of excitement, as if the pain in his arm had vanished. He thought of the shared bike parked downstairs, a vehicle that seemed useless now. But once locked, it was impossible for others to ride away with it. He didn't have to worry about it being taken, and at that moment, he was more curious about how that shared bike could evolve into something greater. What if it could be upgraded into a real warship, or even a space fortress? What did the end of the world on this planet really mean? The mutated beings couldn't even touch him. In this dormitory building, there were many mutated creatures. To others, it was a perilous place they wanted to escape from, but in his eyes, it was clearly an excellent training ground. Level 0 warships required 100 energy points to upgrade to level 1. Upgrading a handgun or a kitchen knife was about survival in the moment, but upgrading the warship was his true goal. His only headache was how to explain that he had conjured a real gun. Moreover, Wang Cheng had never used a gun in reality, so his accuracy was uncertain. He could only tuck the real gun into his waistband for now. At that moment, Su Xinghai had already found the medicine and was hurriedly disinfecting and treating their wounds together with Wang Cheng. Zhang Chao was crouched at the door, nervously observing the situation outside. He had just gone out and killed several mutated beings. He felt both fear and excitement. The mutated creatures on this side were almost all taken care of by them. They weren't so terrifying after all. If they could get out of the dormitory and find a vehicle, they would have a chance to reach the military and the police for real protection. Wang Cheng and Su Xinghai exchanged glances, both contemplating what to do next. If they could connect with the government or the military and gain their protection, it would undoubtedly greatly increase their safety. Wang Cheng even thought that perhaps he could collaborate with the military to help himself accumulate energy points and upgrade quickly. But his system couldn't explain this, and if not handled properly, it could backfire and limit him, potentially leading to his downfall. They needed to plan carefully. Although Wang Cheng was a reborn individual, he had only been reborn for 3 days, and he had no foresight about the future. There were plenty of monsters in their dormitory building, so they decided to wait for a couple of days. They had enough supplies and chose to observe the situation quietly. Their floor had been cleared out by the 3 of them from room 703, but the right half of the 7th floor still had mutated beings lurking and roaring. As time passed, the surviving boys in the dormitory had mostly hidden away, staying indoors to avoid attracting the mutated beings. As night fell, the entire dormitory building became quiet, with only the sounds of the mutated creatures roaming and low growls mixed with the horrific sounds of them fighting and tearing flesh, making everyone's hearts race. The peaceful university town had turned into hell. Looking out from the 7th floor, one could see the city lights illuminating half the sky, with chaotic noises coming from various distances, interspersed with sporadic gunfire. No one spoke. Room 703 also fell silent. Wang Chung rummaged through the items he had bought, finding the flashlight he had prepared earlier, one for each person. Although he had purchased plenty of batteries, which should be sufficient, no one knew what the future held. So everyone was being frugal, and Han Ti turned them on, immersed in darkness. Anxiety and fear quietly began to grow in the dark. Zhang Chao broke the silence. The fourth one, he just died like that. In another corner, Su Xinghai sighed, leaning against the cracked wooden door. He was in a position to notice any movement outside immediately. Wang Chung sat by the window, from where he could see the shared bike he had parked below. Previously, he had been somewhat dissatisfied with this bike, feeling it was a hassle. But now he realized that having such a system and a makeshift vehicle was far better than what ordinary people had. In the shadows, he had already used up the last unit of energy points, converting 10 toy bullets into real 9mm rounds. During the conversion, he could choose to turn the toy bullets into various calibers like 7, 62, or 9mm. The system's function seemed simple, but was actually powerful. Groping for the handgun at his waist, Wang Cheng's gaze flickered as he spotted a wandering mutant creature downstairs, one of its legs broken, crawling on the ground in front of the dormitory building. Its entire body was fully exposed within Wang Cheng's shooting range. If he could hit it, he would definitely score a headshot. He had been eyeing it for a long time. This mutant was practically within reach. Most of the mutants on their side had been cleared out. In this situation, firing from the building posed little risk, despite the noise of the gunfire. It would likely not attract the attention of those beast-like monsters, who could not precisely locate him based on the fleeting sound of a gunshot. Shooting from a height could be considered nearly risk-free. As the moonlight deepened, various chaotic sounds emerged from the disordered city at the edge of the night. Flames lit up half the sky, and from this angle, he could see the iconic television tower of Haicheng ablaze, with faint silhouettes falling from it. Wang Chung suddenly spoke up. "Brothers, I'm going to shoot a mutant. Don't panic." He didn't want to miss this opportunity. It was risk-free. Could hone his shooting skills and accumulate energy points. Zhang Chao and Su Xinghai turned to him in shock. Zhang Chao asked, "Second brother, are you confused? You bought a bunch of toy guns. Where's the real one?" In the darkness, Su Xinghai's eyes flickered. He instantly guessed that those toy guns were likely a cover, and Wang Chung must have hidden a real gun inside. Su Xinghai was also somewhat astonished. Having been Wang Cheng's roommate for a long time, he saw Wang Chung as just an ordinary peer, but today's display had left him utterly surprised, almost unrecognizable. Not only had he predicted the apocalypse, but he also showed no hesitation in hunting those mutant creatures, and now, he had somehow managed to get a gun. Be careful. If not handled properly, a gun could injure you. I'll stay by the door. I can spot any unusual movements immediately. Su Xinghai was filled with endless speculation, increasingly doubting whether this young man from the oil industry had some sort of background, or was perhaps a second-generation wealthy individual. However, he asked himself, given his close relationship with Wang Chung as brothers and friends, he refrained from asking directly and focused on his own tasks. Zhang Chao, not as perceptive as Su Xinghai, was taken aback and didn't think much beyond that. Unfortunately, Wang Chung did not answer Zhang Chao's question either, unable to find a suitable response. He decided to remain silent for now. After all, in the face of the apocalyptic crisis, survival was the priority, and such matters seemed less important. Seeing Wang Chung's silence, Zhang Chao also chose not to say anything further, instead looking around with a look of astonishment. Wang Chung pulled a gun from his pocket, took a deep breath, extended the muzzle out the window, disengaged the safety, gripped the weapon, and aimed. He exerted force with both hands, feeling a slight sting from the wound on his arm. This was Wang Cheng's first time firing a gun. The surroundings were relatively safe, allowing him ample time to feel the weight of the weapon, aim carefully, and discern the direction. His gaze followed the sight, focusing on the head of the mutated creature below on the 7th floor. It was still lingering down there, blood dripping from its mouth, stumbling as if searching for human prey, completely unaware that it had been targeted by the gun and had become human prey. Then, Wang Chung pulled the trigger. The roar of the mutated creature echoed faintly between the dormitory buildings, followed by a sudden, yet heavy gunshot that shattered the night. Chapter 9. We have experts on this floor. The apocalyptic city was not quiet under the dark night, but near the dormitory buildings, only the low growls of monsters remained. In the chaos, just hours after the outbreak, students were either dead or hiding, and those still alive dared not make a sound. Thus, at this moment, the gunshot felt particularly jarring and surprising. Many people hiding in the shadows of the boys' and girls' dormitories looked up in astonishment, those by the windows peering out, bewildered, almost thinking they had misheard. It wasn't until a few seconds later that a second gunshot rang out. The mutated creatures between the buildings let out low growls, abruptly quickening their pace as if trying to rush towards the sound, but soon became lost in the darkness, unable to determine the exact direction. There really was gunfire. It couldn't be wrong. How could this be? Who has a gun? Is the military coming to rescue us? No, wait, it's not the military. It's coming from our dormitory. Which floor is it? Who is so impressive? Can real guns be brought into the dormitories of Great Xia? Listen, the third shot. Someone has a gun. We're saved. In the boys' dormitory, in the bathroom on the right side of the 7th floor, a mutated creature was slowly collapsing, its head shattered. 3 boys, armed with baseball bats, nunchucks, and various makeshift weapons, were panting heavily, staring at their handiwork in front of them. The leader among them was a fair-skinned young student, Wu Jiadong, the student council president of Wang Cheng's department, who at this moment wore a look of shock. His brows furrowed deeper upon hearing the gunfire. Why do I feel like that gunfire is coming from our floor? Wu Jiadong is the kind of child that others admire. Trapped until now, he realizes that rescue may not come, and he doesn't want to sit idly by. He rallies his roommates to explore and see if they can escape the dormitory building. How is that possible? One of his companions whispers. Who in our building has the ability to get a gun? Wu Jiadong's gaze scans around. Wait, why are there only a few mutated beings on this floor? Who killed them? Old Wu, are you going to be foolish? Fewer mutated beings is a good thing, one replies. In the darkness, Wu Jiadong vaguely sees the corpses of the mutated beings lying at the stairwell. His heart races. No, this isn't right. There must be someone powerful on our floor who killed several mutated beings. Look, there are at least 3 corpses right at the stairwell. His companions shift their gaze and, with Wu Jiadong's prompt, they see clearly in the dark and are somewhat astonished. Could it be that we have a master on our floor? Do you think it could be Wang Cheng from room 703? Didn't Li Jie just say in the group that Wang Cheng has gone mad, talking about the apocalypse? Isn't this the apocalypse now? Wu Jiadong has actually never heard of this name, although they are in the same department. He is the favored student of the teachers and deputy counselor, so he wouldn't know who the ordinary students are. He never pays attention to the crazy talk in the group because he knows that those people will be in a different world from him in the future. So there is no need to get acquainted. But at this moment, his eyes flicker. His original intention was to find a chance to leave the dormitory. But now that he realizes there is someone powerful on his floor, he changes his mind. No matter who it is, he wants to find them, get to know them, and act together. Our chances of survival will increase. Meanwhile, in room 703, did you hit anything or not? I'm going to die from anxiety. Zhang Chao moved closer. Observing by the window, Wang Cheng is also helpless. To others, it seems like he intimidated the building with 3 shots. But he knows full well that he missed all 3. Shooting in reality is completely different from in games, and even more complicated than Wang Cheng expected. From the 7th floor to the 1st, even if it's a diagonal shot, it's just over 20 meters. For a humanoid target, Wang Cheng's first shot went astray, and he didn't even know where the bullet went. The second shot, however, tracked the trajectory clearly but landed at the feet of the mutated being, missing entirely. This caused the mutated being to hear the bullet fall and start digging at that spot. Finally, the third shot hit, striking the torso of the mutated being. It swayed slightly and became enraged, roaring wildly on the ground. The vitality of the mutated beings is tenacious. The only way to kill them is to destroy their heads. Otherwise, even if their bodies are severely damaged, they will still possess strong vitality and attack power. Wang Cheng felt a blush on his face. It's just that I have no experience. Let me take another shot. Wang Cheng was making every effort to integrate his previous experiences from shooting games and toy guns, and finally, with the 4th shot, his persistence paid off. Headshot. The mutated creature fell with a thud, and a system prompt immediately sounded. Wang Cheng earned another energy point. This meant he could convert 10 bullets now. Exchanging 4 for 10 was certainly a good deal. Su Xinghai, sitting at the door, laughed and said, if you get a headshot, I might really suspect you're a hidden prodigy from a military compound. Zhang Chao took a more practical approach. That's great, brother. With guns in our hands, we have a better chance of survival. Wang Cheng nodded with a smile, but said nothing, putting away his handgun. Showing his weapon in front of Su Xinghai and Zhang Chao was both a sign of trust and a test. In this apocalyptic scenario, one must guard against others. Wang Cheng wanted to see if either Zhang Chao or Su Xinghai would entertain other thoughts, like monopolizing resources or trying to seize the gun. In a peaceful environment, everyone was amicable, but during the apocalypse, who could know each other's true nature? However, Wang Cheng didn't show his thoughts. He quietly observed, confident that his 2 roommates were also watching him. That gun and the supplies he held were undoubtedly the most valuable items in the dormitory. And just these 2 could reveal everyone's true faces in this new world and whether they could continue together. Of course, judging by Su Xinghai and Zhang Chao's reactions, everything seemed normal, just like usual. Wang Cheng didn't want to fall out with the brothers he had shared a room with for years. He returned to his recliner, closed his eyes, and kept a firm grip on his titanium alloy dagger, ready to take a short rest. His physical stamina wasn't very strong, and after the day's exhausting activities, he also needed a break. Su Xinghai leaned against the door, while Zhang Chao occasionally glanced toward Wang Cheng. seemingly envious of his gun, but soon his expression turned worried, clearly thinking about their current situation. The small dormitory grew quiet again. Wang Cheng appeared to be asleep, but in reality, he was in a semi-conscious state, maintaining the necessary vigilance against any potential mutated creatures and his two companions in the room. Perhaps they didn't have any ulterior motives at all. Wang Cheng's caution might be a bit narrow-minded, but he just wanted to cherish the opportunity to survive. He could choose to trust his longtime friends, which might be less narrow-minded, but what if someone developed a wrong mindset? In the apocalypse and extreme conditions, personalities could change, and he would pay an irretrievable price for his trust. Even if everything seemed fine now, who could say what the future held? In the face of the apocalypse, before life and death, anyone could become a stranger. Maintaining a degree of vigilance toward anyone at any time was the way to go far and live long. With the system in place, he believed that this time of rebirth would allow him to walk a long way. In his hazy thoughts, he recalled his parents, feeling as if he was both asleep and awake, when he heard faint sounds from the corridor at the end of the 7th floor, as if someone was moving around. Wang Cheng suddenly woke up, realizing that Su Xinghai was still at the door, eyes wide open, keeping watch, while Zhang Chao had already fallen asleep. Su Xinghai blinked his eyes. It seems like someone is moving, but it's on the other side, far away from us. You've worked hard today. Take a break. Tomorrow we can think of a way together. Wang Cheng nodded. With Su Xinghai keeping watch, he could rest in a half-dreamy state. Otherwise, with the mutated beings wandering around the dormitory building, he wouldn't dare to close his eyes alone. He had a rough idea of who was active. It should be Wu Jiadong, the student council president on the right side of the 7th floor. In his memory, during the same time in his previous life, he had tried to rush out in the dark, and he and Su Xinghai had begged each other to take them along, but unfortunately, they were rejected by Wu Jiadong. They were from two different worlds, and neither had particularly good physical abilities, so they couldn't provide much help to each other. It was normal to be turned down. But in the end, Wu Jiadong also seemed to have not made it out of the dormitory building, dying on the 2nd floor. No one knew what they had encountered. The horrifying screams lasted for over 10 minutes, sounding nothing like human cries. It was Wu Jiadong's death that completely terrified Wang Cheng and Su Xinghai in their previous life, causing them to hide in the dormitory and ultimately wait for death. Wang Cheng didn't want to meddle and act like a savior, so he didn't go out to warn Wu Jiadong that they were doomed. Instead, he leaned back in his spot and dozed off again, dreaming of the time when he and Su Xinghai were hiding in the room in their previous life. Su Xinghai had pulled out a pack of spicy strips from Zhang Chao's backpack and shared 2/3 of it with him, comforting himself that they would definitely survive. Wang Cheng whispered in his dream, "As long as you don't have any ill intentions, we will survive together." In the apocalypse, trust is a luxury. It's best to act with roommates who are well acquainted. The mutated beings are formidable, and before Wang Cheng had grown stronger, facing the dangers of the mutated beings alone was too great. For example, today, without the full support of Su Xinghai and Zhang Chao, he wouldn't have been able to quickly eliminate half a floor of mutated beings and gain so many energy points. After all, even though Wang Cheng was reborn, he was still an ordinary person and hadn't fully utilized the advantages of the system, so he naturally needed the help of others to enhance his survival capabilities. Unfortunately, this time Wang Cheng couldn't sleep soundly either, because their door was knocked on. Wang Cheng and Zhang Chao were startled awake. Wang Cheng immediately drew his handgun from his waist, ready to act with one hand holding a knife and the other a gun. At that moment, he heard a low voice from outside the door. "Don't act rashly. It's me, Wu Jiadong. I want to ask if you want to join us. Also, the mutated beings on your side have almost been wiped out. It seems like there are some tough characters. So I want to ask if they are your people. If you have such capabilities, we should act together. Our chances of survival would greatly increase." Chapter 10. Wang Cheng's refusal. Peering through the crack in the door that had been smashed open by the mutated beings, he could see shadows outside, with quite a few people standing around. Wu Jiadong was indeed capable. He had gathered all the surviving students on the 7th floor and dealt with the remaining mutated beings that Wang Cheng and the others had left behind. At the onset of the apocalypse, having such courage and determination truly made him a formidable figure. He also appeared very sincere, repeatedly persuading, "We should band together. It's the best choice. We are all classmates." Su Xinghai and Zhang Chao were somewhat tempted. However, Wang Cheng was walking up from behind, signaling Su Xinghai not to open the door. If it weren't for witnessing Wu Jiadong's cold-bloodedness in the previous life, Wang Cheng would have thought that this president of the student council genuinely wanted to take up the flag and save everyone. But in the previous life, that guy's true colors were still fresh in Wang Cheng's mind. "I don't even know you. How can I act with you? If we lag behind, we'll all die together. Don't drag others down. We're not on the same path and don't need to force ourselves together. Besides, we have enough people already. These two are my roommates, both on the school's basketball team, with outstanding physical abilities. The coldness and disdain in Wu Jiadong's voice when he stood in the shadow of the corridor during that time were still etched in Wang Cheng's mind. He looked down on Wang Cheng and Su Xinghai entirely. Now, he came here to rally everyone, probably because he couldn't determine who he considered useful. So he decided to gather everyone together to act. If there's profit to be made, everyone should band together. If not, you should just get lost. Moreover, since Wu Jiadong and his group wanted to escape the dormitory, Wang Cheng had no intention of doing so. To him, the dormitory building was a massive leveling ground. If he could fight his way down, the energy points he could harvest should be enough to arm himself and gather the 100 energy points needed to upgrade a battleship from level 0 to level 1. Once the battleship's level was up, it wouldn't be too late to leave the dormitory. At that time, their survival rate outside would greatly increase. Why should he leave? Wang Cheng directly refused. Sorry, President, we are still too scared. Don't worry about us. You all go ahead. Su Xinghai and Zhang Chao exchanged glances, looked at Wang Cheng, and remained silent. Similarly, compared to Wu Jiadong, they trusted Wang Cheng more. Wu Jiadong was somewhat surprised. He actually couldn't remember what Wang Cheng from 703 looked like anymore, but he didn't expect the other party to refuse him. He couldn't help but say, "Are you sure? There are quite a few anomalies in this building. If you miss this opportunity, it will be too late for you to get out. No need." Wang Cheng firmly rejected again. Outside, Wu Jiadong's group started to murmur. Are the people from 703 that impressive? They directly refused? Li Jie, who was mixed in the crowd behind Wu Jiadong, said sarcastically, they're the ones who predicted the apocalypse. Isn't it normal for them to have a few tricks up their sleeves? Who knows, maybe the one with the gun in our building is also Wang Cheng. If they want to be turtles and wait to die, why should we care? Wu Jiadong was slightly displeased. He had always been a standout figure, and even the counselors at school gave him some face. He actively came to invite these people from 703, but they actually rejected him. 703 was just an ordinary dormitory. A bunch of regular university students who usually had little presence in class. How could they not appreciate the courtesy? Are they really capable or just unaware of who they are? Wu Jiadong said, well, think carefully. It will be too late to find us later. The words of Wu Jiadong had a patronizing tone, which made Zhang Chao slightly unhappy. He coldly replied, just don't come looking for us. Who knows what you're planning? You probably want the food bought from the city. What benefits do we get from cooperating with you? Having just taken down several mutants with the help of the city and knowing that they had firearms, Zhang Chao felt quite confident. The city leader calmly said, Chairman, I advise you not to escalate things. It won't be good for anyone. As the tension rose, Wu Jiadong's face flushed with anger. He retorted, you coward. I hope you can hide here until the end of time. With that, he turned on his heel and walked away, ready to discuss matters with his companions downstairs. The others, eager to curry favor with Wu Jiadong, chimed in with disparaging comments about the city leader, suggesting he was foolish and had been scared silly by the monsters. Wu Jiadong soon gave up. He suspected that the city leader, who might have known about the impending apocalypse, was not the one capable of hunting down mutants on the 7th floor, especially someone who just hid away and acted cowardly. He thought, not joining us is your loss. The more he considered it, the more he felt that he, a privileged individual, was on a completely different level from these ordinary college students. If it weren't for the desire to recruit a powerful ally, he wouldn't even bother cooperating with them. Wu Jiadong had initially aimed to win over the expert on the 7th floor, dismissing the city leader and his group as irrelevant. He waved them off and began discussing plans with his gathered classmates, preparing to head downstairs. In room 703, the usually mild-mannered Su Xinghai rarely showed frustration. But he couldn't help but express his displeasure. These guys, what do they think they are? If we team up with them, we're the ones being agreeable. If we don't, they act like we're ungrateful. It's all good for them and all bad for us. Luckily, I didn't agree just now. Otherwise, they might have used us as a shield to get us killed. The city leader remained silent, returning to his bedside to set up his firearm and continue searching for targets. In this apocalyptic world, one had to be wary of monsters and people alike. Even if someone seemed sincere, it was best not to collaborate too easily, as the consequences could be dire. Therefore, in such times, it was wise for capable individuals to act solo or only team up with a few trusted allies. However, the city leader was well aware that Wu Jiadong and his group were bound to encounter trouble. There were terrifying entities on the 2nd floor, and if they went downstairs now, they would inevitably face them. Yet, the city leader had no intention of warning them. In the apocalypse, life and death were determined by fate and personal choices. Those who were not his concern would not be his responsibility. Everyone must bear the consequences of their actions. Helping others indiscriminately would ultimately lead to one's own downfall. The city leader used an energy point he had just acquired to convert it into 10 9mm bullets. Sitting by the window as he searched for targets, the brief rest was enough. He had to continue hunting the mutated beings. His goal was to accumulate 100 energy points to upgrade the battleship. That would be their ace in the hole for survival. With a level 1 battleship, Leaving the dormitory building and campus would greatly increase their chances of survival. Having died once, Wang Qing became increasingly cautious, taking careful steps while secretly planning. The voices of Wu Jiadong and others outside the corridor gradually faded away, seemingly making their way down the stairs in the dark, preparing to rush out of the dormitory building. Meanwhile, Wang Qing also discovered a new target. The heavy gunfire echoed. This time, perhaps due to experience or a stroke of luck, Wang Qing shot and instantly took down a mutated being wandering below with a headshot. As the creature's body crashed to the ground, a system notification rang in Wang Qing's mind. 1 energy point acquired. There were 15 bullets left. Wang Qing moved slowly, fired again, and even Su Xinghai and Zhang Chao came closer, curiously and nervously watching Wang Qing shoot the mutated being below the dormitory. This time, the first shot missed, but the second shot hit the head. The second energy point was in the account. Then came the third. Wang Qing gradually grasped the technique, and this time he scored another headshot. 12 bullets remained. Zhang Chao excitedly exclaimed, "Second brother, your shooting skills are amazing." However, at that moment, an incredibly piercing scream suddenly came from the second floor below them, cutting through the eerie night, sharp and frantic. The mutated beings outside all turned their heads in this direction. Wu Jiadong and the others were in danger on the second floor. Chapter 11. The monster on the second floor. That scream was unbearably chilling, almost unimaginable for a human to produce. The darkness of the campus area was torn apart, and more chaotic sounds erupted. It seemed that Wu Jiadong and the others encountered something terrifying on the second floor, screaming and fleeing in madness, accompanied by the roars of mutated beings. Wang Qing also put away his pistol and sat in silence with Su Xinghai and the others in the dormitory. Su Xinghai and Zhang Chao had an indescribable fear on their faces. Zhang Chao whispered, "Fortunately, we didn't team up with them. Otherwise, what on earth are they facing?" According to his memory, Wu Jiadong and the others would be completely wiped out on the second floor, swallowed by darkness. However, today seemed different. After listening for a moment, Wang Qing suddenly stood up. He heard chaotic footsteps and frantic howls coming up from downstairs. It seemed that Wu Jiadong and the others had not been killed on the second floor. Instead, they were running upwards, leading the monsters up. A terrifying, hoarse howl, unlike any mutated being Wang Qing was familiar with, mixed with screams and the roars of other mutated beings, rushed up the stairs, inching closer to the 7th floor. "No way, damn it. These bastards have led the monsters up here." Su Xinghai shouted angrily. "We need to go out and intercept them." Wang Qing's expression changed. He had no idea what the terrifying monster on the second floor was, and it would be foolish to continue hiding in his dormitory. Wang Qing held a handgun in one hand and a titanium tactical dagger in the other. After a moment's thought, he grabbed a handful of toy bullets and 2 toy grenades to carry with him, then rushed out first. Zhang Chao and Su Xinghai exchanged glances, armed and closely followed behind. The mutated beings on the 7th floor were nearly wiped out. Wang Qing had killed most of them, and later, Wu Jiadong had led a team to finish off the rest. The 7th floor was surprisingly safe, but at that moment, howls were rapidly approaching from below, as both fleeing people and mutated beings charged up the staircase from the 2nd floor. When Wang Qing reached the staircase, he saw a mutated being with a split head rushing down from the 8th floor staircase. Clearly, it had heard the commotion below and came rushing over. This mutated being had once been human, but it was now almost entirely unrecognizable, its limbs twisted and moving rapidly across the ground like a crawling creature, leaping between the stairs and pouncing directly at Wang Qing. Fortunately, Wang Qing reacted swiftly, firing his gun. The heavy gunfire echoed in the corridor, and one shot hit the shoulder of the mutated being, halting its advance. The second shot followed immediately, exploding the mutated being's head. That was the 4th energy point acquired. However, Wang Qing had no time to celebrate. He swiftly turned his gun down the stairs. A blood-soaked figure rushed up first. It was none other than Wu Jiadong. He looked almost like a different person, his face twisted in terror, covered in blood, but he was the fastest, leading the charge, followed closely by Li Jia, who was desperately running. Standing on the landing of the 6th floor, Wu Jiadong immediately spotted Wang Qing, who was aiming a gun at him. In that instant, he seemed to forget to run, frozen in place, his expression shifting dramatically. "Why, you are Wang Qing?" His face showed regret, unwillingness, and anger. He never expected that the expert he had worked so hard to find, the one with a gun, was indeed the ungrateful Wang Qing from 703. He finally understood that Wang Qing was not a coward. Rather, he believed they were unworthy to act alongside him. As Wu Jiadong recalled the words he had said earlier, it felt as if he was slapping his own face. Wu Jiadong was a proud person, exceptional since childhood. Convinced that his future achievements would surpass those ordinary people he deemed unworthy to associate with. He had purposefully chosen friends and cultivated relationships with teachers and leaders at school. But at this moment, he realized he must have made some grave mistakes. His actions had backfired, pushing him toward a desperate abyss. These thoughts flashed through his mind in a split second. Wu Jiadong opened his mouth, wanting to call out for help to Wang Cheng in a humble and desperate manner. Unfortunately, behind him, Li Jia was rushing up, shoving Wu Jiadong aside, pushing him behind himself. And right behind Li Jia, a mutated being with a gaping, split-open mouth lunged forward, biting down on Wu Jiadong's head with a sudden force. There was a sickening crunch. Li Jia was covered in blood, looking completely insane. While Wu Jiadong still had a shred of rationality in his escape, Li Jia was utterly terrified and shouted, "Die. Just die? So what if you're the student council president? I can run faster than you, and that's how I survive." A heavy gunshot rang out, startling Li Jia, causing him to fall to the ground while climbing the stairs, bloodied and bruised. When he looked up, he saw Wang Cheng and the gun in his hand. Suddenly realizing something, he roared, "It's you, you bastard. If you're so capable, why didn't you help us? You knew the apocalypse was coming. Why didn't you tell us properly so we could believe it? In the end, only you were prepared, you selfish bastard." Li Jia was losing his mind, completely forgetting that Wang Cheng had warned everyone in the end, only for it to be turned into a joke in their group chat. Now, he was reaping the consequences of his own actions. Earlier, their words about the cowards and turtles outside the dormitory had become the biggest joke. But Wang Cheng didn't even look at him. He shot and killed the mutated creature that had killed Wu Jiadong, then immediately aimed downwards, veins bulging, his face changing dramatically. He saw a twisted monster, resembling a small mountain, pushing through the guardrail below and climbing up rapidly. It seemed to be a mutated fat man, whose once flabby flesh had transformed into muscle tissue, granting him immense strength. Its head was also significantly larger than that of a typical mutant, split into 4 parts resembling a grotesque blood-red flower, emitting a howling sound. Just moments ago, it had torn apart another unfortunate student on the 6th floor. The scene was incredibly bloody as it extended its thick arms, grabbing the student on either side and pulling them apart. Amidst the horrific screams, the student was torn in 2 at the waist, intestines and organs spilling everywhere. Yet that student did not die immediately. The head of the severed body let out inhumanly anguished cries as it was crushed and stuffed into the creature's gaping maw. Then, it suddenly raised its head, blood-red eyes locking onto Wang Cheng and Li Jia on the 7th floor. That bastard is definitely going to lead this thing up here. Wang Cheng had no time to care about Li Jia's curses. Just one look from the mutant sent chills down his spine. It had completely surpassed human limits. If it got close, death was certain. It would definitely tear them apart. Bang, bang, bang. Wang Cheng fired frantically, the flashes of bullets intertwining in the flickering light of the flashlight in the corridor. The massive body of the mutated fat man was rapidly climbing the wall towards him. Its claws smashed into the wall, leaving terrifying deep dents as it advanced quickly. Even worse, despite hitting its head with 5 shots, blood splattering everywhere, he still hadn't managed to blow its head off. As it closed in rapidly, Wang Cheng's heart raced wildly. 2 guns, for guns, and 9mm bullets couldn't stop its charge. It leaped forward, rushing down from the 6th floor landing, completely ignoring Li Jia on the ground, speeding towards Wang Cheng. He knew that the power of the handgun was insufficient. If this continued, he would definitely be doomed when it got close. Wang Cheng emptied the 7 bullets in his magazine, cold sweat streaming down as the foul wind from the massive mutated creature nearly hit him in the face. A bloody scene began to flash before his eyes, where the creature would grab his head, crushing it like a small persimmon in its palm. In that moment, Wang Cheng felt his body stiffen, unable to move. After all, he was just an ordinary person, with little experience accumulated before his rebirth. But Wang Cheng did not want to die. He took deep breaths, trying to stay calm. Running was impossible. There was only one way out. He still had a card to play. He reached into his pocket, tightly gripping the toy grenade he had on him. He still had 5 energy points left after killing the mutated creature that attacked Wu Jiadong, which gave him the 5th energy point. 5 energy points were just enough to upgrade the toy grenade. The 9mm handgun wasn't powerful enough, but what about the grenade? System, upgrade this grenade. Weapon enhancement. Toy grenade scan complete. Upgrade commencing. Estimated upgrade time, 10 seconds. The moment he heard 10 seconds, Wang Cheng's heart sank. He was doomed. The mutated creature was too close. 5 seconds would be enough for that monster to kill him. Damn it, if only he had obtained the 5th energy point sooner. He could have upgraded earlier. He was finished, absolutely finished. Wang Cheng had retreated to the wall behind him, pressed against it with nowhere else to go, while the massive mutated creature had leaped up, crashing down onto the 7th floor, roaring hoarsely. Behind him, Li Jia had his leg crushed by it, twisting in agony as he screamed, "We're all going to die. We're all going to die. Ha ha. Wang Cheng, you're finished. Why are you stronger than me? You're going to die too. You're going to die too, ha?" Chapter 12. Aligned for the first time, Wang Cheng felt time dragging on so slowly. 10 seconds felt as long as a year. He didn't want to give up. He had retreated to a corner, desperately trying to avoid the creature. The massive mutated creature's claws slammed into the wall behind him, leaving deep, terrifying gashes. 5 seconds had passed, but in this round of evasion, Wang Chung had nowhere left to dodge, trapped in a dead corner. He looked up just in time to see the creature's four-part head pressing down, its gaping maw about to tear his head apart. 3 seconds left. Wang Cheng's heart felt colder than ever. He was doomed. There was no time for the grenade. However, at that moment, a furious roar erupted from the side as Su Xinghai and Zhang Chao combined their strength to push a heavy 3-section iron cabinet filled with items from room 705. Their veins bulging as they exerted all their effort to crash it into the massive creature. A loud howl echoed as the massive creature crashed to the ground. But its body continued to thrash, slowly prying open the metal cabinet. Under its sharp claws, the metal was torn apart. The cabinet couldn't withstand it for long. However, this provided the last few seconds for Wang Chung. He rolled out, throwing a grenade directly at the giant mutated creature in the darkness, shouting, "Get down." A huge fireball erupted. With a loud bang, the metal cabinet flipped over, charred from the explosion, and beneath it, the upper half of the mutated creature was blown apart. Its horrific 4-part head reduced to a pool of flowing blood. A fragment landed not far from Wang Cheng's head. The shockwave knocked him over, leaving him dazed. Realizing he had underestimated the grenade's power, if it hadn't landed under the creature with the cabinet providing cover, he would likely have been blown to pieces. Despite this, Wang Chung experienced some ringing in his ears. Turning his head, he saw Su Xinghai and Zhang Chao had also heard his warning and managed to drop down in time. Su Xinghai was unharmed, just covered in dirt and dust, and was saying something to Wang Chung. Wang Chung shook his head, unable to hear clearly, but from his lip movements, it seemed he was saying, "You still have grenades?" Wang Chung didn't know whether to laugh or respond. Just moments ago, if it weren't for Su Xinghai and Zhang Chao, he might have been done for. He once thought they would flee upon seeing the massive mutated creature. But they hadn't. The ringing in his ears gradually subsided, and oddly, it didn't affect the system notification, which informed Wang Chung that he had just killed the creature and was awarded a full 10 units of energy points. It seemed that powerful high-energy entities provided more energy points. 1 grenade, 10 energy points, not a bad trade. He grabbed his pistol, stood up from his spot, and walked step by step toward the corner of the stairs. Li Jia was there, covered in blood, one leg crushed by the giant mutated creature, mangled and broken, resembling a pile of meat paste. Wang Chung shook his head and approached him, one hand holding the gun, the other gripping tightly. Li Jia looked up at him. Disbelief etched on his face. "How is this possible? How did you survive? Where did you get a grenade? I'm going to report you. You have a gun and a grenade. You should be dead. Help me, Wang Chung, save me. We're brothers on the same floor." Suddenly, Li Jia's voice cut off. A blood hole appeared in his forehead, blood gushing out. He stared at Wang Chung in disbelief. Slowly, Wang Chung lowered the gun, his hand trembling slightly, unsure if it was from the earlier fight or because it was his first time killing someone. He had considered using a knife but couldn't bring himself to do it. He opted for the gun and wasted a valuable bullet. Consider it tuition. This was the first person he had killed, but he knew that in this apocalyptic world, he wouldn't be the last. Not killing Li Jia. Are we supposed to save him? Wait for him to harm me again? Wang Chung even had a crazy thought that he found cruel and selfish. If he had taken out Wu Jiadong and the others early on, perhaps he wouldn't have encountered danger, because if they were dead, there would be no opportunity to lead that terrifying mutated creature to the 7th floor. This thought startled Wang Chung, and he reminded himself not to lose his way. In the apocalypse, one might kill to survive, but there should be a bottom line to being human. It must be clear what should not be done and what can be done. Otherwise, even if he survived, he might no longer be considered human. At that moment, Wang Chung turned his head and saw Su Xinghai helping Zhang Chao to stand up, both looking at him somewhat dazedly. After a moment, Su Xinghai softly said, "Good job, Wang Chung. We must survive. Whatever comes for us, we'll deal with it." The ground was still scattered with the remnants of the explosion. Wang Chung didn't know what to say, and just then, he heard piercing screams coming from both upstairs and downstairs, as the mutated creatures in the dormitory were stirred, roaring towards the 7th floor. Everyone's expression changed, and without bothering to clean up the battlefield, they retreated towards the end of the left corridor to room 703. Just before closing the dormitory door, Wang Chung saw a dense mass of mutated creatures gathering at the stairway of the 7th floor, stacked upon each other, their claws and severed heads swaying. There were more than 20 of them, crazily tearing at the bodies of both humans and mutated creatures, creating a hellish scene. The 7th floor fell completely silent. Everyone needed to rest, and during the second half of the night, the gunfire at the edge of the city gradually intensified. Wang Chung saw a rescue helicopter flying across the distant sky, but it hadn't gone far before a large, blood-red shadow from the dark sky struck it. No one could see what it was, and the helicopter disintegrated in the center, exploding in midair. Amid the dazzling flames, a massive creature resembling both an eagle and a sparrow, but the size of two adults, flapped its wings and vanished into the night. Zhang Chao trembled and said, "Not just humans have mutated. What on earth is happening in this world?" This was also the answer Wang Cheng wanted to know. After a night of rest, when dawn broke, everyone had recovered a bit. Wang Cheng generously shared the food he had procured from the supermarket with Su Xinghai and Zhang Chao. If it weren't for Su Xinghai and Zhang Chao during the battle at the stairway, Wang Cheng might have truly died. They actually had the time to escape. The massive mutated creature was drawn to Wang Cheng's attention and might not have noticed them. If they had hidden, they could have survived first before looking for an opportunity to escape. But they chose to fight. If Wang Cheng hadn't killed that giant mutated creature, they would have perished too. Wang Cheng felt moved. Since they held nothing back for him, he wouldn't hold back either. Of course, he wouldn't let go of the necessary vigilance. During the latter half of the night, he had been pondering. With the apocalypse arriving, the old system collapsed, and the previous civilization and laws vanished completely. But Wang Cheng didn't want to become a madman or a thug in the apocalypse. He drew a line for himself. If people kill me, I will kill. If people help me, I will help. To survive, one can do anything necessary. But acts of violence and brutality unrelated to survival must never be crossed. Having killed people and monsters, Wang Cheng has set this line in his heart. And everything in front of him suddenly becomes clear. He knows exactly what to do. He is confident that he can survive in this cruel apocalypse. The three of them have consumed quite a bit of energy and eaten a lot of food. At this moment, Su Xinghai looks at Wang Cheng and asks, "What should we do next?" Wang Cheng squints his eyes and boldly states, "Hunt the mutated beings. Clear out the entire dormitory building." The giant mutated being on the second floor is dead, and now this dormitory building should only have ordinary mutated beings left. As long as they handle it properly, all the mutated beings on the first floor will become energy points for Wang Cheng. The 100 energy points needed to upgrade to a level 1 battleship are right in front of him. Wang Cheng is a man of action. After a brief rest, he begins to act again that morning. After the battle last night, he has only 5 bullets left. However, he bought a lot of toy bullets, spending 2 energy points to convert them into 20 real bullets. He also spends 5 energy points to upgrade a toy grenade into a real grenade, and uses 2 energy points to upgrade 2 bone saws into titanium alloy daggers. At this point, after killing the giant mutated being, only 1 energy point remains. To gain, one must be willing to lose. To hunt mutated beings, one must be well prepared. The expenditures now are all for accumulating 100 energy points to upgrade the battleship. Wang Cheng originally bought a total of 4 toy grenades, and now he has upgraded 2 of them, leaving 2 unupgraded. While Su Xinghai and Zhang Chao are out exploring, Wang Cheng completes this series of upgrades. He then hands the newly upgraded daggers to Su Xinghai and Zhang Chao. So much has happened in one day that the 2 of them are no longer surprised by the contraband items Wang Cheng produces. They have a sense of discretion and do not ask too many questions, though Zhang Chao does say, "Second brother, when will you get me a gun too?" Wang Cheng assures him, "Don't worry, what's mine will definitely include yours. We're going to strike and clear out the mutated beings in this building." When Wang Cheng first shared his plan, Su Xinghai and Zhang Chao thought he was crazy. After confirming multiple times, they realized he was serious, and both decided to assist him without hesitation. After the long night, they have no doubts about Wang Cheng. However, clearing out the entire dormitory building is easier said than done. This building has more than 10 floors, each with 12 dormitories, and each dormitory typically houses 4 students, meaning there are at least 48 mutated beings on each floor, with 8 or 9 on the lower floors and possibly more on the upper floors. It won't be easy to eliminate them. The first challenge is to deal with the more than 20 mutated beings that were attracted and gathered on the 7th floor last night. One night passed, and with the addition of food, their mutations deepened. The twisted muscles on their bodies became even more knotted, and their claws sharpened. A light scratch on the floor of the dormitory building left a shocking mark, as if cutting through iron like mud. A casual scratch would result in flesh being shredded. It seemed that with time and feeding, they had grown stronger than before. Su Xinghai leaned in to observe and noticed that the 2 mutated beings were even rummaging through the remains of a broken metal cabinet on the ground. What had been heavy for them yesterday was now easily manageable, like a slightly heavier toy. Zhang Chao felt a chill run down his spine. How to kill these 20 creatures? I'll go, you cover me. The grenades upgraded from Wang Cheng were specifically meant to deal with this batch of monsters. He used the cover of the dorm rooms to gradually approach, and finally threw a grenade. With a loud bang, the group of mutated beings was blown away, flesh and blood flying everywhere. A few at the center of the explosion were shattered instantly. After 2 grenade blasts, half of the ground at the 7th floor staircase collapsed, sending debris down to the 6th floor. The remaining mutated beings were also severely injured, howling madly in the flames. At that moment, Wang Cheng charged out. coordinating with his two roommates, shooting the mutated beings on the ground with headshots. 23 energy points were added to his account. Wang Cheng's energy points surged to 24 instantly. Meanwhile, the explosion attracted many more mutated beings from other floors. Wang Cheng crouched on the 7th floor, waiting for them to come. He shot one as they appeared. One after another, the beast-like mutated beings, not very intelligent, fell easily, like characters from a children's story, dying on the spot. By noon, Wang Cheng had accumulated 30 energy points. During this time, a few mutated beings were also killed by Su Xinghai and Zhang Chao, but those wouldn't count towards Wang Cheng's energy points. He found it difficult to compete with the others. Even if he wanted to take down all the mutated beings himself, it was impossible in reality. Nevertheless, 30 kills in half a day excited Wang Cheng immensely. If this trend continued, the 100 energy points needed to upgrade their warship would be within reach. A level 1 warship couldn't possibly be like a shared bicycle, right? As long as they could upgrade to an iron war chariot, they could navigate the apocalypse with confidence, greatly increasing their safety. However, they were not invincible. After a morning of bloody battles, both their spirits and bodies were exhausted, so they returned to room 703 to rest and eat. Zhang Chao was very excited. Awesome. This titanium alloy dagger cuts through iron like mud. Did you see that? Today, I chopped off half of that mutated being's claw with one strike and slit its throat with the other claw. He was more thrilled than anyone else for personally slaying the mutated beings. Su Xinghai, however, was counting the food that Wang Cheng bought from the supermarket. Feeling a bit worried. We've been hunting mutated beings, and the physical exertion is too great. Although old Wang bought a lot of food. With 3 big guys like us, if we keep eating like this, we'll finish it all in at most 5 days. Let us rest until 3 o'clock. And when we go hunting on other floors in the afternoon, let us see if there's any food in the other dorms. As for food, Wang Cheng wasn't worried at all. Although their current warship is only at level 0, its maneuverability is quite good. In 5 days, the energy points obtained from hunting may not be enough to upgrade the warship, but they should be sufficient to arm themselves to the teeth. If they successfully upgrade the warship, finding food should not be a problem. However, Wang Cheng has overestimated the efficiency of the 3 of them. They are just a group of ordinary university students. Even with weapons in hand, their combat experience is still being honed. In the morning, a grenade made it easy to take down a group of mutated beings, but the afternoon was different. The mutated beings no longer gathered, and the 3 had to search the floors for hunting, which became much more troublesome. Moreover, the mutated beings were elusive, requiring constant vigilance. One misstep could lead to serious injuries or death from a lurking monster. They decided to clear the area below first, establishing a safe route to leave the dormitory building. That way, they could retreat at any moment if necessary. After an entire afternoon, they only managed to clear the 6th floor. The surviving students hiding on the 6th floor were dumbfounded. They were trapped in various corners by the mutated beings, starving and afraid to make a sound, effectively becoming prey. However, Wang Cheng and his friends descended like divine soldiers, hunting the mutated beings instead. The stark contrast in their capabilities left these students astonished. What surprised them the most were the fearsome weapons in the hands of Wang Cheng's trio. The ordinary survivors only had makeshift weapons like sticks and paddles, which could be easily severed by the claws of the mutated beings. In contrast, the trio not only had firearms, but also brutal melee weapons capable of severing the arms of the mutated beings. The battle itself was meaningful, as the 3 rapidly accumulated valuable combat experience and explored the best strategies to counter the mutated beings. They even developed a specific positioning method to defend against attacks from any angle in a flat environment, allowing for perfect cooperation and counterattacks. Zhang Chao transformed from fear to excitement, exuberantly declaring the return of their camaraderie. We're back. The synergy for leveling up together is back. Wang Cheng promptly gave him a light smack on the head, urging him to calm down. Stay focused, don't get carried away. It's one thing to get yourself killed, but you don't want to drag your 2 fathers down with you. Moreover, they would not be overconfident. When tired, they would rest, and when night fell, they would also rest, ensuring a steady supply of food. Some survivors wishing to cling to Wang Cheng for protection were ruthlessly rejected. He didn't want to babysit anyone. The 3 of them were just right as a team. Overnight, half the building's survivors learned that Wang Cheng on the 7th floor had a gun, and the trio from room 703 was sweeping through the mutated beings. Many who initially wanted to flee the dormitory decided to stay, thinking it was safer here, while some began to harbor ulterior motives. On the 3rd day of the apocalypse, after sweeping through the 5th floor, Wang Cheng and his group were resting in the evening when they heard soft footsteps approaching their dormitory on the 7th floor. A group of survivors on the 5th floor saw the weapons in Wang Cheng's hands and knew that he had stockpiled a large amount of supplies before the apocalypse. They were tempted to take action under the cover of night, planning to kill Wang Cheng and his companions in their sleep to loot their supplies. This was no longer the first day of the apocalypse. Many had run out of resources and had been hungry for a day or two. Under the pressure of fear, their eyes had turned green like starving wolves, and their moral boundaries had been easily crossed. Unfortunately for them, Wang Cheng and his group were sufficiently cautious. The three of them had already established a watch schedule, taking turns to keep guard. At that moment, it was Su Xinghai's turn. He was the leader of the dormitory. Gentle and serious. Although he felt a bit drowsy, he remained alert, fearing that if he fell asleep, it would endanger everyone. He was the first to notice the unexpected visitors outside the door. He immediately stood up and called out, "Who are you? What do you want?" The survivors outside, realizing they had been exposed, fled in a panic. Wang Cheng and his group chased after them, but in the darkness, they couldn't clearly see who it was. In the midst of the apocalypse, people's hearts were quietly changing. On the fourth day of the outbreak, Wang Cheng and his group continued hunting the mutated creatures and had reached the fourth floor when a rather amusing incident occurred. Suddenly, a blood-red cloth banner was thrown out from the girls' dormitory across from theirs, with the words "Help! Wang Jiai, the campus flower," written on it. Seeing the banner, Wang Cheng was dumbfounded. They all knew Wang Jiai, the aloof beauty with countless admirers, was now calling for help, clearly pushed to her limits. The boys' dormitory had been quite lively these past few days, thanks to Wang Cheng's presence and the upgraded weapons from the system, allowing them to hunt the mutated creatures. In contrast, the girls' dormitory was eerily quiet, completely dominated by the mutated beings, with humans forced to hide and pray not to be discovered or torn apart. However, even hiding had its limits, and many were already struggling to hold on. Su Xinghai said, "They must have heard the gunshots and know that we have firearms here." Wang Cheng replied decisively, whether she is the campus flower or not. Thinking a single cry for help will make someone risk their life is too naive. The lonely banner hung outside, but no one rushed into the girls' dormitory to rescue her. In the face of life and death, the status of a campus beauty was meaningless. Securing food and evading the mutated creatures was what truly mattered. In recent days, strange sounds echoed throughout the city, with gunfire, explosions, and terrifying roars from the monsters. After the electricity and mobile signals were cut off, water supplies quickly followed suit, with no signs of recovery. Even those who were in denial had come to understand. The disaster of the apocalypse had truly arrived, and the monsters were evolving rapidly. They were constantly mutating, and even the mutated creatures had become far stronger than they were at the beginning. If it weren't for the experience Wang Cheng and his two companions had accumulated, encountering a mutated creature could have resulted in their demise. Over the past 3 days, Wang Cheng had swept through 3 floors, killing his way from the 7th floor down to the 4th, obtaining a total of 73 energy points, but in the end, there weren't many left. He spent 8 energy points to upgrade the bullets and replenish his supplies. At the same time, he spent another 10 energy points to upgrade the only other pistol, which he handed over to Su Xinghai and Zhang Chao for joint use. When Wang Cheng passed the gun to the two of them, Su Xinghai and Zhang Chao had particularly complex expressions, and for a moment, they didn't even reach out to take it. Zhang Chao, who usually appeared carefree, actually had a delicate side and said, "Second brother, in this world, guns are valuable. Are you really letting us use it?" Su Xinghai pushed the gun back and said, "Why don't you hold on to it? Your shooting skills are pretty good, and we don't really know how to use it." Wang Cheng replied, "I have a gun, and you both know that. This gun is for you. I originally wanted to arrange a pistol for each of you, but I only have 2 in total, one for me and one for you both to share. Just use it for now." Su Xinghai and Zhang Chao were so excited that they were almost speechless. On the first day of the apocalypse, they were just surprised that Wang Cheng had firearms and grenades. However, over the past few days, even though they hadn't left the dormitory building, they had witnessed too much. On the 4th floor, 2 survivors from one dormitory even killed each other over a fruit knife and some supplies. No matter how good friends are, sharing a pack of biscuits is already generous enough, as no one knows when the apocalypse will end. When the food runs out, they will have to venture outside. Right now, the monsters on campus are more numerous than those in the dormitory, so saving a little is crucial. Delaying going out means less risk and a chance for longer survival. Thus, everyone has become more stingy and selfish. The longer they survive in the apocalypse, the more they understand how generous Wang Cheng is to share the food he bought in advance with them. Now, he even gave them a gun. In their country, guns are not something the average person can possess, making them extremely rare. Especially in such an environment, the significance of a gun is self-evident. It is a survival asset more important than food. Wang Cheng not only shared food with them, but even just handed over this gun. Their gazes toward Wang Cheng were filled with complexity. Finally, Su Xinghai pressed his hand on the gun, stuffed it into Zhang Chao's arms, and said, "Third brother, you try it first. You know I'm good with the guitar, but terrible at games, and my shooting skills probably aren't great. You take it for now." "Thanks, second brother." Zhang Chao opened his mouth, knowing that Su Xinghai was deliberately saying this to make him take it. but he still accepted it silently. Second brother, thank you. Boss, let's take turns using this gun to get familiar with it. We still need to leave Haiqing together to find our parents. Su Xinghai nodded with a smile and looked at Wang Cheng, saying, Second brother, I know you might have some incredible means to acquire these weapons. Perhaps related to the toys you bought back, but third brother, and I won't ask too much or tell anyone. You can rest assured about that. We brothers are united wherever we go. Wang Cheng smiled and said, I understand. He actually felt a bit sentimental. Many university dormitory relationships are just average, but the bond in their dormitory had always been strong. Before his rebirth, Wang Cheng and Su Xinghai relied on each other, and he had received a lot of care from the dorm leader. Choosing to stay in the dormitory to face the apocalypse this time was not only about accumulating energy points by dealing with the mutated beings in the building, but also about wanting to stick together with these brothers. It was manageable with a low-level battleship, but as the level increased, Wang Cheng always needed help to operate the ship. Running a spaceship requires more than just a captain. With trustworthy people right in front of him, why seek help elsewhere? Genuine sentiments were exchanged, although Zhang Chao and Su Xinghai didn't say much. Their hands trembled while holding their guns, reflecting their complex feelings. They were not eloquent, and those two sentences conveyed their intentions. These upgrades and expenditures were necessary. The mutated beings grew stronger with time, and if they didn't spend energy points to enhance their combat power. Wang Cheng estimated he wouldn't survive long enough to accumulate a full 100 energy points. After using some, only 55 energy points remained. Wang Cheng actually wanted to upgrade his shotgun, but hesitated. Upgrading a shotgun required 20 energy points. After spending that, he would have just over 30 points left. After much deliberation, he decided to keep the toy shotgun and not upgrade it. What solidified Wang Cheng's decision was the danger they faced when encountering mutated beings in the afternoon. With Zhang Chao getting a real gun, the pressure on Wang Cheng eased significantly. In the afternoon, they began to clear the mutated beings on the third floor. Although Zhang Chao's shooting skills were not great, having a gun was better than not having one at all. Firing from the side could still limit the movements of the mutated beings. Wang Cheng and Su Xinghai took advantage of this to swiftly eliminate a mutated being, efficiently and safely, thanks to the rapport they had built over the past few days. However, in Dormitory 303, they encountered a highly evolved mutated being. One of its arms had transformed into a shield-like structure, and bullets merely created dents on it. It easily knocked Su Xinghai to the ground. Wang Cheng and Zhang Chao's 9mm bullets could not penetrate its twisted, mutated bone shield, let alone aim for a headshot. They had no choice but to retreat with Su Xinghai, relying on their handguns to suppress the shielded mutated being as they fell back to the 7th floor. Su Xinghai took a hard fall, suffering several abrasions and struggling to stand up. This made Wang Cheng resolute. He couldn't save energy points. Upgrading the battleship was indeed important, but without enhancing the accompanying weaponry and survival capabilities, upgrading would be pointless. Wang Cheng no longer hesitated. He spent 20 energy points to directly upgrade the shotgun, transforming the toy shotgun into a heavy-duty one that could hold 5 rounds of ammunition. He then took this gun back to the 3rd floor. The other variants on the 3rd floor have been mostly dealt with, leaving only the shielded variant, which wanders around in its bulky, bony armor. Wang Cheng opened fire, and the shotgun's firepower increased significantly, directly breaking through the variant's bone armor. With 3 shots, the variant's head was blown apart, crashing to the ground. This provided Wang Cheng with 3 energy points. At this moment, after deducting the energy points spent on upgrading the shotgun ammunition, Wang Cheng still had 37 energy points left. Su Xinghai was injured and unable to move for the time being, and there were still plenty of variants on the 1st and 2nd floors. However, with the shotgun in hand, Wang Cheng's area damage capability increased dramatically, greatly boosting their combat effectiveness. Together with Zhang Chao, they swept through the variants on the 2nd floor, bringing their energy points to a total of 62. 100 energy points were now within reach. However, on June 1st, 235 of the Federation. Late at night on the 6th day of the apocalypse, the gunfire from the city's outskirts gradually diminished. But in their school, a deafening explosion erupted from the direction of the cafeteria, shattering the glass in Wang Cheng's dormitory. A massive fireball shot up into the sky. A great explosion had occurred at the cafeteria. Beneath the cover of the flames, a terrifying giant shadow swayed unsteadily, and a roar echoed throughout the campus. Chapter 15. Campus Supermarket on the 7th day of the apocalypse, June 2nd. In the early morning, Wang Cheng stepped out of the dormitory building for the first time since the outbreak. The explosion from the previous night served as a wake-up call. While hunting variants in the dormitory building was enjoyable, he had nearly forgotten about the changes happening outside. Since they had stocked up before the apocalypse, although their supplies were depleting quickly, they still had enough to last them for at least half a month, so they weren't worried about food. However, the 3 of them were completely in the dark about the situation outside. Wang Chung was concerned that they had been living too comfortably here, completely unaware of what was happening outside. It was possible that everyone in the city had evacuated, or that something even more terrifying had spread throughout the city that they didn't know about. Moreover, the gunfire that had been so intense in Haicheng in the past 2 days seemed to be diminishing. The situation in Haicheng was hard to gauge. If only a large number of survivors had evacuated, that would be one thing. With the system and the warship, Wang Chung didn't necessarily need to team up with the military to seek protection, especially since he didn't even know where the military was now. But if there were completely overwhelming and terrifying mutated creatures in Haicheng, or even on the university campus, then they would be in trouble. Thus, Wang Chung decided to go out and take a look around, hoping to gather some information from other survivors on campus and observe the situation at the school. Zhang Chao and Su Xinghai wanted to follow him to keep an eye on each other, but Wang Chung advised them to stay behind. There were quite a few survivors hiding in their dormitory building, all too frightened to leave. Taking advantage of Wang Chung and the others clearing out the variants, they were hiding in safety, since they couldn't carry the supplies from dorm room 703 with them. It was best for Zhang Chao and Su Xinghai to stay back and watch over the place. Wang Chung was not prepared to go on an adventure. He simply left the dormitory building, took his weapon, wrapped the conspicuous shotgun in cloth, and hopped onto his shared electric vehicle, heading towards the distant edge of the university town shrouded in dark clouds. He wanted to see what that massive shadow from last night's explosion actually was. After several days, riding his shared electric vehicle again, Wang Chung felt a mix of emotions. He attempted to place his upgraded shotgun and pistol on the vehicle and called for the system, discovering that for 5 energy points, he could fuse any weapon with his current level 0 vehicle. However, he chose not to do this, believing it was more important to upgrade the vehicle to level 1 first. At this stage, he needed to enhance the vehicle's fundamental capabilities. Nonetheless, Wang Chung noticed that although the vehicle's design was exaggerated and somewhat amusing, it was fully functional. A bunch of buttons, each with its own purpose. And there was even a pulse accelerator that could make the shared electric vehicle speed up instantly. Not only that, but there was also a button that could put Wang Cheng's vehicle into silent mode. In silent mode, the vehicle's noise was minimized, allowing it to race through the campus at high speed with hardly any sound, almost like a ghost. As he zipped past a swaying mutated creature, it howled and turned its head slightly towards him, but failed to notice Wang Chung. There were 3 dormitory areas at Haicheng University, and Wang Cheng's was located in the far corner of the university town, a newly constructed dormitory complex. While the cafeteria where the explosion occurred was situated in the center of Haicheng University, beside the teaching buildings. Driving the heavily armored vehicle, Wang Cheng's heart sank. In recent days, the number of mutated creatures wandering near their dormitory had decreased, but they had all moved into the university town in massive numbers. With tens of thousands of students and teachers at Haicheng University, there were at least thousands of mutated creatures now roaming between the hallways and tree-lined paths. Once a place filled with the fragrance of books, the university was now a scene of blood, gnawed bones, and severed limbs. Wang Chung even saw that the squirrels he used to see on campus had mutated, growing larger with protruding fangs. When he spotted one, it was crouched on a human brain, mouth open, with a straw-like sharp tongue greedily sucking up brain matter, its eyes filled with excitement. Once, it had been a favorite subject for many women to photograph. With so many mutated creatures lurking around, Wang Chung did not open fire. This time, he was not out for hunting, but to investigate the surrounding situation. Realizing he still lacked experience, he acknowledged that he should have come out earlier to scout and plan an escape route from the dormitory and even Haicheng University. Supplies would eventually run out. They would have to leave their dormitory stronghold sooner or later, and planning an escape route in advance was the right choice. As Wang Chung moved forward, he quietly took notes to prepare for planning his return, and soon he arrived near the cafeteria at Haicheng University. From a distance, he saw towering flames. But before getting closer, he suddenly hit the brakes, coming to an abrupt stop, his pupils constricting. The flames in the university cafeteria extinguished overnight. Wang Chung initially expected to encounter a massive mutated creature here, but instead, he found dense branches and vines. In the cafeteria of Haicheng University, a terrifying giant tree was growing wildly, breaking through the ceiling and extending twisted branches out through the glass and windows. Even more horrifying was that the frantically growing branches were piercing through a massive mutated creature, approximately 10 meters tall, resembling a mountain of flesh. As if they were siphoning the creature's blood and flesh, relentlessly attacking the giant tree. In this terrifying apocalypse, it was lush and growing madly. Some branches no longer resembled trees, but rather blood-colored snake-like vines, visibly writhing and spreading along the walls, with rustling sounds accompanying their movement. The large cafeteria had become its garden, and if this trend continued, it seemed to want to engulf the entire school. Was that the landscape tree on the first floor of the cafeteria also mutated? Wang Qing once thought they would only face human mutants and mutated animals, but just then, he heard a voice behind him. Wang Qing turned cautiously to see another boy riding a yellow electric scooter approaching from a distance. The boy called out, "Don't get close to that thing. It eats people and moves faster than those damn mutants." At that moment, Wang Qing suddenly realized that there were no mutants even in the vicinity of the cafeteria. It seemed they had all been consumed. Wang Qing thought for a moment and moved closer to the boy. "Thanks, I'm not quite clear. How do you use this shared electric scooter? The network is down. I'm Wang Qi, from Dormitory 8. Are you also out here looking for supplies?" The boy looked at the electric scooter under Wang Qing with surprise. Dormitory 8 was in a different direction from Wang Qing's dormitory area. Wang Qing maintained caution and distance, introducing himself and his dormitory, but not revealing his intentions. Instead, he followed along, saying, "Yes, I also have nothing to eat, and I want to see what happened yesterday in the new dormitory area. You also have the surname Wang. What a coincidence. We just differ by one character. But I heard your area is quite dangerous. I haven't seen many survivors coming from there. Now everyone is gathering near a few teaching buildings. If you have nowhere to go, you can head that way. As for supplies, I just heard the counselor leading the student council is planning to raid the second school supermarket. I'm getting ready to scavenge. Do you want to join?" Wang Qing did not refuse. There were several supermarkets on campus, and Wang Qi mentioned that the second supermarket was not far from the cafeteria. Wang Qi and Wang Qing rode side by side, both keeping a certain distance. Wang Qi was quite talkative, and once he started, he couldn't stop. Wang Qing gathered quite a bit of information from him. It turned out that many survivors had been active at Haicheng University in recent days. Many had formed survivor groups. Some chose to make a living on campus, while others opted to leave Haicheng University, attempting to seek refuge with the military and police. Due to the disaster breaking out at night, the dormitory buildings were nearly uninhabitable. Most of the survivors on campus gathered in the teaching buildings, but supplies were scarce, and food was in short supply. Everywhere on campus were mutated beings, and everyone was trying to find food to survive. Wang Qi was one such survivor. All his roommates had perished, and he had started wandering around the school 3 days ago in search of something to eat. Fortunately, he had his own electric bike, which helped him escape from the mutated beings that chased him, surviving several life-threatening situations to make it to today. Unlike Wang Qing, Wang Qi did not have the courage to confront the mutated beings directly. He always hid and avoided them. Although there were many mutated beings on campus, he tried to remain quiet and careful. The visually impaired mutated beings found it difficult to detect him, allowing him to slip away unnoticed. "Bro, your shared electric bike is amazing. Why is it so quiet?" At that moment, they encountered a mutated being, and Wang Qi cautiously turned off the bike from a distance and pushed it forward, fearing to alarm it. When he turned his head, he saw Wang Qing riding his bike steadily, making almost no noise, which did not disturb the mutated being at all. As they moved further away, Wang Qi looked on in amazement. I don't know either. I study electronic information, just randomly picked a bike and bypassed its program. It works without the internet." Wang Qing replied. Just then, they finally arrived at the location of the campus supermarket. The storefront was small, but a group of survivors had gathered outside. Students and teachers alike, armed with a hodgepodge of weapons, were fighting against the mutated beings near the supermarket. What surprised Wang Qing the most was that in front of the group of students stood a leading female counselor, who had an alluring figure and beautiful features. She stretched out her hand, igniting a fuse, and with a flick, she pinched the flame, which flared up and transformed into a terrifying fireball that shot out, striking a mutated being ahead and knocking it over in an instant. He heard Wang Qi beside him exclaim with envy, "Awaken one." Chapter 16. You tell me that's a shared electric bike? According to Wang Qi's introduction on the way, at the beginning of the apocalypse, the survivors in the school could still stick together, but within just a few days, due to a lack of manpower and uneven distribution of supplies, they quickly fell apart, forming several large and small survivor teams scattered throughout the school, each fighting for themselves. Some even resorted to violence over supplies. Among them, the largest group was the survivors from the student council. With counselors and teachers helping other students, they had gathered quite a number, reportedly around 100 people. It was precisely because of this manpower that they dared to attack the campus supermarket. The campus supermarket was a heavily affected area. In the first few days after the outbreak, many had set their sights on it, but unfortunately, they overestimated themselves and all perished, attracting a swarm of mutated beings. As a result, there were 13 mutated beings stationed at the entrance of the campus supermarket. Even though one could see plenty of supplies inside from a distance, no one could retrieve them. They were ordinary people, lacking weapons. How could they deal with one mutated being, let alone 13? When Wang Qing arrived, he saw a similar scene. There were quite a few people from the student council survivor team, more than 20, but their weapons were quite ridiculous. Boxing gloves, nunchaku, baseball bats, fruit knives, and blunt tai chi swords were acceptable, but some were even wielding chairs and benches. 13 mutated creatures charged out, and everyone quickly retreated, resulting in one unfortunate student being knocked over and losing his head. It wasn't until that beautiful counselor took action, stunning everyone, that courage returned to the crowd. Wang Cheng was also taken aback. Awakened ones? What are awakened ones? Isn't that superpowers? He took a closer look and recognized the beautiful counselor. She was a counselor from the School of Management, reportedly only 25 years old, having become a counselor after directly pursuing a doctoral program at the school. Because of her good looks and charm, many remembered her during the school anniversary, and Wang Cheng was no exception. I actually didn't know much. Just heard from others that this apocalypse was caused by the outbreak of some ancient virus. Some people infected became monsters, while others were infected but didn't turn into monsters, instead gaining supernatural abilities. These were the awakened ones. Wang Qi whispered, "You didn't know this? TSK. Chunlan used to be everyone's dream girl, and now she's even more so. So many people want to curry favor with her, but can't." Wang Cheng felt a chill at Wang Qi's words. Ancient virus? He couldn't help but recall the strange ripples he sensed on the day of the apocalypse. His gaze fixed on Chunlan. At that moment, Wang Qi continued, "Look over there. Those people are just here to pick up the scraps. Right now, among the survivor forces at Haicheng University, only Chunlan and the student council allow everyone to do that. If it were those ruthless ones like Xia Bai, who would dare to pick up scraps, they'd definitely come over and kill you. In the apocalypse, people aren't even human anymore." Wang Cheng glanced over and noticed that while Chunlan was leading an attack on the number 2 campus supermarket, he and Wang Qi were sneaking on the side, along with many pale and thin students who were also hiding at the edge of the battlefield, too scared to confront the mutated creatures, just waiting for Chunlan and the others to conquer the supermarket so they could pick up some leftovers. Why pick up scraps? Why not just join them? There's no such good thing. At first, Chunlan and the others needed people, but now they don't. If they would let me join, I'd even be willing to shine their shoes. I haven't had a full meal in 3 or 4 days, Wang Qi self-deprecatingly said. Useless people. Those who dare not confront the mutated creatures are unwanted wherever they go. Ordinary students like us are now ignored. Listening to this, Wang Cheng was momentarily at a loss for words. And just as Wang Qi said, Chunlan and her group were indeed brave. They managed to suppress those 13 mutated creatures with just over 20 of them. However, the commotion they caused was significant, and from a distance, several swaying shadows appeared, seemingly attracted by the noise from mutated creatures in other directions. They paid the price of several lives to eliminate the remaining mutated beings, and then hurriedly prepared to flee with supplies. A few female students rushed over, pleading for some food and requesting to join them. Chunlan glanced at them, showing a moment of reluctance on her face, but ultimately coldly refused. "We have enough people. It's not that we don't want you, but we can't take anyone." The girls wanted to approach further, but were all blocked. Wang Qi remarked, "These people still have delusions. Chunlan and the others have long since stopped wanting survivors. It would have been better to go and plead earlier. Now, they should just wait on the sidelines to pick up the scraps after the looting is done." He appeared to be quite experienced, but behind that was a deep sadness. Just a few days into the apocalypse, and it had already become this way, survival of the fittest, where the weak could only pick up the leftovers from others, and even had to consider others' moods. Those deemed useless would be abandoned and rejected. In these few days, the 3 of them had been hiding in their little corner of room 703, maintaining a state of mutual goodwill, while outside chaos reigned in the apocalyptic world. Wang Cheng self-deprecatingly smiled to himself. Wasn't he the same? To survive, whoever acts like a saint must pay the price and naturally be a bit cold-blooded. Wang Cheng kept his distance from Wang Qi, observing from the side and waiting to pick up the scraps. Although Wang Cheng didn't lack supplies, since he was there, he might as well bring back something. At that moment, another group charged in fiercely, all male students. The leader, with a buzz cut and a round face, seemed to be an awakened one. He raised his hand and unleashed a wave of cold air, freezing the head of a mutated being. Wang Qi whispered, "It's over. There won't be any scraps left now. Xia Bai is here." On the way, Wang Cheng had heard him mention this Xia Bai from the survivor faction at Haicheng University. He was a ruthless character, having killed more student survivors than mutated beings, merciless in his actions. Previously, he had assaulted a female student, and Chunlan had nearly clashed with him over it. At this moment, the 13 mutated beings were almost taken down by Chunlan and her group, and Xia Bai clearly saw the opportunity. He chose this moment to emerge, aiming to take advantage of the chaos. The 2 sides quickly faced off aggressively. One male student on Chunlan's side, with bloodshot eyes, shouted, "It's you. You killed my girlfriend." He charged forward, wielding a baseball bat. However, a burly bald man behind Xia Bai stepped forward, swinging a fire axe, splattering blood and knocking the student down mercilessly. Wang Qi trembled in fear. "Brother, we should get out of here. Xia Bai is too ruthless. If he drives Chunlan away and discovers us picking up scraps, we might not be able to leave. Meanwhile, the atmosphere in the arena was tense. Chunlan's expression changed. Do you dare to touch my people? Xiaobai merely sneered. What if I do? You just fought with the mutated beings. Do you really want to fight us now? Get lost, or I'll kill you all. This is the supermarket we fought hard to seize. Chunlan clearly did not intend to back down. Xiaobai then said, I can share a little with you. If you're willing to let us brothers have some fun, I'm willing to give you 2 boxes of milk. His companions behind him burst into laughter. The main force of survivors on both sides were students, but it was clear that Xiaobai's side consisted of tough characters, each robust and strong. Their overall combat power evidently surpassing that of Chunlan's group. Chunlan's face turned pale, but she was also a fierce person. She pulled out a match, holding the flame in her hand, and coldly said, if that's the case, no one will get these supplies. I'll burn them all. Xiaobai's expression changed as well. You dare? Do you believe I can wipe out all your people? Just then, a terrifying howl came from one side, and a monstrous giant dog, as large as an off-road vehicle, suddenly leaped out of the shadows. Its entire body was bright red, with bones protruding, eyes glowing with blood, and its fangs, which curled over its lips, were as long as a forearm. It moved with incredible agility, like a cheetah, and suddenly pounced into the standoff between the two groups. In an instant, it knocked one person off their feet, in front of the monster. The human forces crumbled like dust, and chaos erupted with screams as they fled. The scavenger survivors, who had hesitated to leave, panicked and scrambled away. Wang Qi's face also turned pale. He was still enthusiastic, shouting, Brother Wang Cheng, run. However, when he turned his head, he saw Wang Cheng not only unfazed by the monster, but actually looking pleased, as if he had seen a treasure. Wang Cheng indeed saw a treasure. For as soon as this mutated giant dog appeared, his system began scanning and unexpectedly issued a prompt. Detected a special high-energy biological entity, estimated to yield special serum and 25 energy points, allowing the host to participate in the kill. Special serum? This was something he had never heard of, and Wang Cheng, thinking it must be a valuable item, couldn't sit still any longer. This mutated giant dog was his. With a burst of nitrogen acceleration, Wang Cheng dashed out. Wang Qi was dumbfounded. Nitrogen acceleration? Who told me that electric vehicles could use nitrogen acceleration? Wait, how does an electric vehicle even have an exhaust pipe? He looked at the electric vehicle beneath him, then at Wang Cheng's, completely stunned. Without comparison, there would be no harm. Chapter 17. Special serum at the supermarket of Haicheng University No. 2. With the arrival of the mutated giant dog, a horrifying bloodbath erupted instantly. This mutated creature was terrifying. Entirely blood red, as large as an off-road vehicle, with some bones growing externally, forming spines and defenses. Its muscles rippled beneath, resembling a fearsome African lion pouncing into a flock. Just moments before, the atmosphere had been tense, but it quickly turned chaotic as it knocked one person off their feet. The weapons in the hands of the students merely tickled its skin. A casual tug from it could easily slice through flesh with its long, sharp teeth, cleaving people open and spilling intestines everywhere. A single stomp could trample any unfortunate survivor who failed to dodge. The two awakened individuals on both sides also changed color. Chunlan directly hurled the flame in her hand at the creature. The fireball hit the monster, causing it to sway slightly under the impact, with some charred marks appearing on its body, but it suffered no fatal injuries and continued to charge forward, pursuing its prey mercilessly. A living person could be swallowed whole in just a few bites. Blood splattered everywhere. On the other side, Xiaobai had already begun to run for his life. In front of other survivors, they had been quite arrogant, but now, faced with these terrifying mutated creatures, they behaved like frightened children, only concerned with escaping and trying to outrun others. Xiaobai took the lead, but the bald-headed boy was even more ruthless. Seeing the mutated giant dog lunging at him, he threw one of his smaller companions out as a distraction, buying himself some time to escape. The other survivors who had been scavenging also began to flee. In a scene that was both maddening and tragic, some survivors crazily rushed toward the supermarket, entering it to stuff their clothes with various foods, hoping to take them out. However, as soon as they burst out of the supermarket, they found the giant dog blocking the entrance, its blood-red eyes fixed on them. At this moment, a fireball struck the creature, causing it to shake and momentarily redirect its attention to the tiny human who dared to attack it. Chunlan stepped back, trembling with fear, yet shouted loudly, "Run!" The survivor, clutching food, snapped back to reality and stumbled away in a panic. The mutated giant dog had already lunged forward, poised to swallow the woman who was known as the beautiful counselor of Haicheng University. With nowhere to retreat and no way to escape, Chunlan could only close her eyes and await her fate. Just then, a deafening roar suddenly erupted. Wang Cheng activated the liquid nitrogen boost, breaking the silence. Amidst the astonished gazes of the crowd witnessing this extraordinary event, the exhaust pipe of Wang Cheng's electric vehicle, hidden in the corner, erupted with flames, and the relatively lightweight electric vehicle shot out like a bullet. The speed rapidly climbed in close proximity. Within 3 seconds, it exceeded the speed limit of the electric vehicle, quickly rushing toward 100. Survivors nearby, including Xiaobai and others, turned around in shock. If the appearance of the mutated giant dog had sent their souls soaring, this scene felt like they were witnessing a ghost. Xiaobai had run about 70 or 80 meters, nearly safe, when he turned to see this scene reflected in his pupils, murmuring, "What the hell is this?" Qianlan was also stunned. Realizing she was still alive, she immediately opened her eyes to witness the unbelievable sight. A black electric vehicle, resembling a shared bike, shot out like lightning, covering less than 100 meters in an instant, crashing into the giant dog that had been lunging at her. The terrifying initial speed and energy sent the mutated giant dog flying backward into the supermarket behind, and with a loud bang. The crowd barely had time to comprehend what was happening before the head and half of the body of the mutated giant dog exploded in a horrific blast. Blood splattered everywhere. The giant mutated creature that had just been slaughtered on the battlefield was instantly killed. In an instant, there was complete silence. Not a sound to be heard. Survivors nearby were all stunned by this scene. It happened too quickly. The reversal was too sudden. That once mighty mutant was taken down in an instant. The city had deliberately chosen this moment to strike. The speed of this mutated giant dog was comparable to that of a typical electric vehicle, with astonishing destructive power. The low-tier battleship was quite inadequate, resembling a fragile vehicle. So engaging in a direct confrontation would be perilous. Any mistake could lead to being crushed underfoot by the opponent. To minimize risk, the strategy was to take advantage of the moment when the giant dog was focused on other targets, ignoring its surroundings, and strike it directly with speed and the sturdy hull of the battleship. Coupled with grenades, it was a guaranteed kill. No chance for it to catch its breath. Unfortunately, all 3 grenades had been used up by then. Thick smoke billowed, and pieces of flesh were scattered everywhere. The protagonist was also stained with blood, but at that moment, he was unaware of the shock he had brought to those around him. After killing the mutant, he quickly retreated through the smoke to check on the condition of his battleship, before charging out on his shared electric vehicle battleship. His biggest concern had been whether he would crash into someone else and end up wrecked. For an ordinary electric vehicle, that risk was not negligible, especially since this mutated giant dog was clearly stronger than typical mutations, having undergone multiple transformations and developed a layer of bone armor near its head, which was incredibly tough. If a regular plastic and metal electric vehicle collided with it, the likelihood of being destroyed was almost certain. However, he reassured himself that this was a battleship, and based on the system's prior description of its enhanced defensive capabilities, he decided to proceed. Even if it was a low-tier battleship, it should not easily be crushed by a collision, right? When he took a look afterward, he felt a slight sigh of relief. Aside from some minor deformation at the front and a shattered left headlight, the crash had caused little damage overall. The outer black paint had scratched off, revealing a heavy iron structure underneath, far from the fragile materials of an ordinary shared electric vehicle. Indeed, it was not possible for this thing to be easily destroyed. If a kitchen knife could be upgraded to a titanium alloy structure, capable of slicing through iron, then how much more could this low-tier battleship, upgraded with 50 energy points? Though the current appearance of the battleship was somewhat shabby, it was no longer just an electric vehicle. It belonged to the realm of battleships. Of course, calling it a battleship still felt a bit embarrassing. It would likely need further upgrades to truly have the appearance and capabilities of a real battleship, becoming a genuine spacecraft and warship. At this moment, smoke and dust filled the air, and the massive corpse of the mutated giant dog lay motionless. Wang Cheng realized that he had become the center of attention. Survivors from near and far had stopped fleeing, staring at him and the electric vehicle beneath him as if they were looking at some kind of monster. How could they not be surprised? Wang Cheng had just run over the mutated giant dog with his electric vehicle, yet it remained unharmed. He himself was fine too. At the same time, a notification from the system echoed in Wang Cheng's mind. Dear host, you have successfully hunted the current high-energy creature and obtained energy points, 25 points. Dear host, please place your hand on the corpse of the current high-energy creature, and the system will activate the serum extraction function. Wang Cheng's heart stirred as he glanced at the surrounding survivors who were staring at him. He gently placed his hand on the disgusting corpse of the mutated giant dog. A strange, cold sensation washed over him. Extracting serum. Soon, another notification from the system rang out. Obtained 1 vial of special strength serum. Strength serum. After injection, the recipient's genes will undergo a certain degree of modification, enhancing muscle and explosive power, granting strength far beyond that of ordinary individuals. However, the appetite of the recipient will also significantly increase. Please prepare enough food to endure the hunger period after injecting this special serum. Special serum is materializing. In Wang Cheng's hand, a system-generated bone syringe appeared. Extracted from the body of the mutated giant dog, containing the flowing serum. He had no time to examine it closely because there were too many people around. So he quietly tucked it into his clothing while no one was watching. No one noticed. Hearing this series of system notifications, Wang Cheng felt a surge of joy. Strength far beyond that of ordinary individuals. Wasn't this just like the super soldier serum? However, while the super soldier serum could enhance all aspects, this one only increased strength. Was there also a speed serum, a physique serum, and so on? Would there be higher level enhancements? Advanced mutated creatures not only provided high energy points, but also evolution serums. Wang Cheng squinted his eyes. Although he hadn't awakened any superpowers, having a special serum meant he could evolve infinitely, with comprehensive improvements in all areas. Compared to the flashy abilities displayed by Chunlan and Xiebai, this was undoubtedly more solid. No matter what superpower you had, my body is invincible, fast, and strong. Your attacks can't harm me, and I can crush you with a single punch. What good is awakening superpowers? Of course, that was a discussion for later. For now, Wang Cheng had only obtained a vial of strength serum, but he was already looking forward to a future where he would sweep through the apocalypse with an all-around enhanced self, piloting a battleship. Chapter 18. I'm taking your car. The sky was dim, and at the supermarket entrance, the corpse of a mutated giant dog emitted a faint stench. Around it, several mutated beings appeared, swaying as they tried to discern their specific location. Once they determined the direction, they would rush over like hungry tigers. Wang Cheng, however, was surrounded by onlookers. Nearby, Chunlan and her group stared at Wang Cheng as if he were some strange creature. On the other side, Xiebai, who had almost run away moments ago, turned back with a complex expression. His subordinate, a fierce bald man, also returned, wielding a bone saw and approaching from another direction. In the outer layer, the chaotic mutated beings were still some distance away. After inspecting his vehicle, Wang Cheng looked up and saw this scene. He then heard Chunlan say, "Thank you. Is this your modified car?" From Chunlan's perspective, if Wang Cheng hadn't intervened in time, she might have already died. Therefore, her gratitude was genuinely for Wang Cheng's life-saving actions. However, Wang Cheng was clear in his own mind. He was no hero saving others from peril. He had merely seized the opportunity while watching Chunlan attract the giant mutated dog. He didn't explain this and simply nodded, pulling out 2 plastic bags from his pocket. The mutated beings were still approaching, and the other survivors around them were watching. Wang Cheng didn't pay much attention. He wanted to enter the supermarket to grab some supplies and leave. These 2 plastic bags had been given to him by Su Xinghai earlier, intended for collecting any useful items he might find. Wang Cheng didn't lack resources, but he wouldn't turn down more. At the beginning of the apocalypse, it was still possible to find supplies in supermarkets and other places. In another 10 days to half a month, once everything had been looted, it would be much harder to find anything. Wang Cheng said, "I took care of that monster. So I should be able to take a share of what's in the supermarket, right?" Chunlan seemed surprised that Wang Cheng was more interested in the supermarket supplies than her gratitude. However, upon reflection, she quickly understood and replied, "You deserve it. Take whatever you want first." As she spoke, she stepped aside, gesturing with her eyes to the surviving student companions beside her. Some of them were still stunned by Wang Cheng's earlier action against the mutated giant dog and remained silent, while a few who were reluctant to let Wang Cheng take a share were silenced by Chunlan's gaze. Chunlan's approach was different from Xiebai and the others. She understood that without Wang Cheng, they would likely have to abandon the hard-won supermarket in the face of the mutated giant dog. Therefore, Wang Cheng had the right to take some food. Seeing the mutated beings swaying closer, Chunlan knew time was short and didn't want to engage in pointless conflict. Moreover, how much could one person take from a supermarket filled with supplies? It was better to do Wang Cheng a favor since he had saved her. Chunlan was not just a pretty face. She was sharp-minded and didn't want to make enemies lightly. Wang Cheng thought for a moment, and instead of moving, he called out to Wang Qi, who was still on the edge. "Wang Qi, come here." Wang Qi actually wanted to run away, but he was stunned by Wang Cheng's actions. When he heard Wang Cheng calling him, he didn't think too much and directly pushed his electric bike over. As he got closer, the gazes of others fell on him, and he realized that this didn't seem to be a place he should be. However, since he was already there, he had no choice but to muster his courage and whisper, "Bro, you're quite the hidden master. Please don't drag me into this. You want supplies, right?" Wang Cheng tossed the plastic bag in his hand to Wang Qi and said, "Help me fill it up. Focus on biscuits and water with a long shelf life. As for the rest, you can take whatever you want. Consider it your reward for coming along with me." Wang Cheng wasn't foolish. He noticed that many people in Chunlan and Xiebai's group were eyeing him with ill intentions. Therefore, it was clear that he couldn't go in to grab things himself. He needed to stay outside the supermarket and let Wang Qi go in instead. Hearing Wang Cheng's words, Wang Qi's face lit up with joy. He had taken a huge risk coming here, and why? It was all for a bit of food and supplies, right? He initially only wanted to pick up some leftovers, but now Wang Cheng was letting him go in first, ahead of Chunlan and Xiebai. How could he not be excited? Wang Qi even sensed the envious and jealous looks from other survivors who were scavenging. He immediately felt fearless and calm. As long as he could get supplies, what did it matter if others looked at him? Without supplies and food, he would starve. Qianlan said, I have no objections. Don't worry, I'm also a counselor at our school, and I won't harm innocent students. However, just as Qianlan finished speaking, Xie Bai, who had been observing silently, suddenly spoke up. Bro, you're impressive. If I'm not mistaken, the modified electric bike you used to blow up that mutated giant dog just now was equipped with a homemade bomb, right? Our university has someone like you. And I wasn't even aware of it. We truly have hidden talents here. The bald guy behind him then said sternly to Wang Qi, that kid. Chen Xingmu promised to let you take supplies, but we didn't agree. Wang Qi, an ordinary person, trembled and stood frozen, glancing at Xie Bai and the others. Then at Wang Cheng, not daring to move. Wang Cheng's heart raced, but his expression remained unchanged as he discreetly grasped the shotgun wrapped in cloth behind him. Casting a cold glance at Xie Bai and the others. What do you mean? He realized that although Xie Bai was a reckless doomsday fanatic, he wasn't a fool. He had been observing him without speaking, and perhaps he had mistaken the fragments of the grenade on the ground for the pieces of a homemade bomb. After all, this was huaxia, and the average person wouldn't associate it with a real tactical grenade. So what did Xie Bai mean by speaking now? Xie Bai smiled and said, what I mean is, I know you have a homemade bomb, so we're on guard. That trick of yours won't work on us. I appreciate your type of person, and I can offer you two choices. First, join us, and I guarantee you a life of luxury. Just tell me which beauty from our school you like, and I'll get some resources to buy her for you to enjoy. Wang Cheng did not want to associate with these people. He had his own plans. What's the second option? You can go in and take resources. But I really like your vehicle. If you give it to me, you can enter and take as many resources as you want. Consider it a favor from me. Xie Bai's tone was patronizing, finally revealing his greed in his eyes as he looked at Wang Cheng's vehicle. Clearly, he wanted Wang Cheng's shared electric bike. Wang Cheng lowered his gaze slightly, saying, I can't even use that thing if I give it to you. To his surprise, Qianlan spoke up at that moment. Xie Bai, don't go too far. Without this classmate, we all have to run away. No one can take the resources here. He should be able to take what belongs to him. Xie Bai's expression suddenly turned sinister. I'm talking to this person, not you, foolish counselor. I despise people like you. Always trying to help others, only to end up harming yourselves. I've given you two options. I've been quite courteous, so don't be ungrateful. As he spoke, the bald boy and others behind Xie Bai had spread out, forming an arc to surround Wang Cheng, blocking his way. Clearly, they were ready to resort to violence at any moment. A flicker of anger sparked in Wang Cheng's eyes. These people were going too far. Chapter 19. Who dares to kill me? Xie Bai sneered. His fingertips were emanating a chilling aura, a sign of his awakened freezing superpower. He was confident that if Wang Cheng charged at him with the vehicle, he could act before Wang Cheng accelerated and freeze his arm. He had acted with impunity at Haicheng University, not because of their ferocity, but because of his keen observation. Xie Bai had just carefully assessed the situation. This boy in front of him, apart from being skilled at modifying electric vehicles and making homemade bombs, was an ordinary person, weak in stature, and in a real fight. He would not be their match. As for the homemade bombs, they might work well against beast-like mutated creatures, but using them against people was ridiculous. Having recognized this, Xie Bai was sure they could overpower Wang Cheng, which was why he openly revealed his greed, wanting to claim Wang Cheng's modified vehicle for himself. That vehicle was impressive, not only well-armored but likely equipped with a diesel engine and nitrous. Despite its small size, it was a great asset, and I want it. Wang Qi was stunned. The joy he had just felt vanished in an instant, and he began to regret coming here to associate with Wang Cheng. Qianlan's face alternated between green and white at Xie Bai's words, standing in place, momentarily speechless. Only Wang Cheng let out a cold laugh and said, Can you even use my vehicle if I give it to you? He was genuinely a bit annoyed. Who is this person named Xie Bai? And what evil has he done? The city lord doesn't care. He doesn't have that much power to control what others do in the apocalypse. However, Xie Bai has come to challenge him directly, and the city lord certainly cannot tolerate this. Xie Bai is relying on his numbers and his status as an awakened one to bully others, offering two options that force people into a corner. Upon hearing this, the city lord understood immediately that Xie Bai's first option was just a way to draw him into a trap. When Xie Bai heard the city lord's response, his expression changed. The mutated creatures around them were getting closer, and he didn't intend to waste more words. He prepared to strike immediately, with full confidence. He aimed to freeze the city lord's hand, already imagining the scene of the city lord screaming in agony as he lost his arm. No matter how fast his vehicle was, it needed time to start, leaving no room for retaliation. Unless this guy had a gun, otherwise he was doomed. But this was Huaxia. How could he possibly have a gun? However, the city lord was thinking just like him. Once he decided to take action, there was no need for further conversation. The best offense is a good defense. The city lord had already reached for the shotgun behind him and swiftly drew it out, tearing away the layers of fabric covering it. Xiebai stepped forward with a cold smile, ready to see what kind of weapon he had, convinced he would win. But in the next second, his expression changed drastically. The city lord's weapon was a long-barreled shotgun. As Xiebai raised his hand to use his awakened power, the city lord had already fired. When going out, he had covered his gun to avoid drawing attention, but he never turned off the safety. It was always ready to fire. A loud bang echoed. There were screams nearby. Xiebai felt as if he had walked into the barrel of a gun, and was knocked back over 2 meters by the shot, crashing down and turning into a bloody mess. Before he could even die, his upper body was mangled, blood frothing from his mouth, and his eyes fixed on the city lord in disbelief, resentment, and ultimately despair. He could hardly believe until the end that this guy really had a gun. A shotgun, fired at close range. He had no chance to react. In the end, the light faded from his eyes. Chunlan and the other survivors from her side were all in shock. He has a gun. This person has a gun. Wang Qi was dumbfounded. His emotions today were like a roller coaster, rising and falling. Just moments ago, Xiebai had threatened to kill the city lord, and his heart had plunged to the depths, regretting ever associating with the city lord. Given Xiebai's character, if he killed the city lord, he would definitely kill himself as well. However, he never expected the situation to reverse again. The city lord actually pulled out a shotgun and shot Xiebai dead. Wang Qi's heart, which had fallen to the bottom, soared to the sky. Thank goodness he had spoken to the city lord. This guy was a big shot. A real powerhouse. In Huaxia, Haicheng, he actually had a gun. Where did he get it? After so many days of the apocalypse. Although Wang Qi had no skills and was just running for his life, he was aware of the distribution of survivor factions at Haicheng University. However, he had never heard of anyone having a gun. Even the arrogant Xiebai and the numerous members of the student council, including Chunlan, did not have guns. Such things are not something anyone can easily acquire. Wang Qi felt he had struck gold by encountering a powerful figure, and he knew he had to flatter him. If he could become part of this king's domain, he would never lack for supplies. Unable to control himself, he shouted, "You're amazing, boss." Wang Cheng then aimed his gun and swept it around, coldly saying, "Who else? Let's see who dares to kill me." All of Xiebai's subordinates were stunned, followed by an overwhelming fear. Wang Cheng's previous shot had already proven that he was armed with a real weapon. Who could be faster than a gun? What if they were awakened? Xiebai had just learned that lesson the hard way. Before he could even raise his hand, he was shot dead. Moreover, this was not Wang Cheng's first time killing someone. After shooting Xiebai, his hand did not even tremble, and his gaze became fiercer, as if he had transformed from a lamb into a hungry wolf. "Run!" the bald young man shouted before turning to flee. Terrified, he realized they had encountered a tough opponent. They had to run. If they didn't, it would be a death sentence. The once fierce subordinates of Xiebai lost all their ferocity, each turning to flee frantically, disregarding even Xiebai's body on the ground. Even those who had previously been wary of the 3 factions, including Chunlan, were now frightened and scattered by Wang Cheng's single gunshot. Only then did Wang Cheng lower his gun. He didn't have many bullets left and saw no need to waste them on these scoundrels. However, he was surprised to receive a system notification just after killing Xiebai, informing him that he had successfully hunted a high-energy being and gained 2 energy points. This made Wang Cheng narrow his eyes dangerously. Previously, when he killed Li Jie, he didn't receive any energy points. But this time it seemed that because Xiebai was an awakened one, it was likely that the awakened were also affected by mutations. They just hadn't transformed into mutated beings, but instead gained superpowers. At this moment, the situation in the area became chaotic. Due to the time wasted and the sound of the bald young man's escape, the surrounding mutated beings had determined their direction and were flocking toward them. The survivors outside who had been waiting to scavenge soon found themselves targeted by the pursuing mutated beings. Nearby, Wang Cheng glanced directly at Wang Qi. Wang Qi quickly reacted and rushed into the supermarket. The people around Chunlan had completely changed their attitude toward Wang Cheng, now filled with immense caution. But at this moment, they couldn't worry about that. The noise they had made had attracted more and more mutated beings. If they didn't seize the opportunity to transport supplies now, it would be a waste of effort, and they didn't know how many would go hungry because of it. In the apocalypse, without supplies, hunger and fatigue would make it increasingly difficult to find resources, leading to a vicious cycle that would ultimately push people toward the abyss of death. There is insufficient food and physical strength, leading to a significant decline in survival ability. Chunlan clearly wanted to say something to Wang Cheng, but there was no time left. Other survivors, who were also scavenging, began to surge forward. They dared not approach Wang Cheng and Wang Qi, instead crowding with the student council members, creating chaos as they frantically grabbed supplies from the supermarket. Just a few days after the outbreak, this campus supermarket had not been looted due to the presence of several mutated creatures, leaving it well stocked with supplies. And people rushed in to grab everything. Wang Qi was among them but felt something different. His physique was not imposing, and he appeared quite honest. In this apocalypse, he had often been looked down upon and even bullied, leading to a miserable existence. However, today, amidst the chaos, when he reached for something, other survivors kept their distance from him. No one dared to approach him, while others were fighting madly over a pack of chocolate. As soon as Wang Qi stepped in, they immediately stopped and turned to grab other items. Whatever he wanted, others were eager to hand it to him, while others were fierce and nearly going mad for supplies. It seemed like Wang Qi was in a world where everyone was friendly and cooperative, reminiscent of the pre-apocalypse days. Wang Qi was not foolish. He knew exactly why this was happening. In the midst of the chaos, he instinctively looked towards the door where Wang Cheng was armed. Wang Cheng was fiercely firing his weapon, his aim precise, clearly an experienced shooter, capable of taking down a mutated creature with a single shot. Other survivors, even those from the student council whom Wang Qi could not afford to offend, avoided him. Wang Qi understood. In the scramble for supplies, everyone else was disorganized. But he had order here because of Wang Cheng. Wang Cheng and his gun represented the highest form of power and order here. Wang Qi was now considered part of Wang Cheng's group. Who would dare to compete with him or cross him? Even as the mutated creatures were about to swarm in, they did not dare to fight Wang Qi for supplies. Chapter 20. Something big happened. Wang Qi was quick on his feet and soon squeezed out from the crowd of people fighting for supplies. He was terrified, fearing that if he was slow, Wang Cheng would worry about the mutated creatures coming early and leave him behind. That would be the end for him. However, this fear made him act swiftly, not daring to delay for even half a minute. He dashed out, loaded with a significant amount of supplies, not only filling the plastic bags Wang Cheng had given him, but also stuffing his own pockets with items. He even took off his outer jacket and used it as a big pouch to carry a bunch of miscellaneous supplies. Wang Cheng glanced over and saw the mix of items inside, not just food, but also duct tape, flashlights, and even a pack of pink sanitary napkins and 2 packs of condoms. This showed Wang Qi's urgency in gathering these items, and it was evident that he had truly experienced the despair of being without supplies or food, especially for their generation, who found it hard to relate. Now that they finally had a chance to scavenge for resources, he was desperately collecting everything he could. Wang Cheng had just taken out several mutated creatures and accumulated some energy points, but as he saw more and more mutants approaching, he couldn't sit still. Without hesitation, he accepted the items Wang Qi handed him. Earlier, he had only given Wang Qi 2 plastic bags, but now Wang Cheng returned the favor with 5 large, filled plastic bags containing the biscuits and water he needed. He calculated that the quantity was just right, matching the limit his level 0 battleship could carry, without being greedy. Supplies that could be taken were called resources, while those that couldn't be taken but were forced were considered burdens. As more mutated creatures surrounded them, under the darkened sky, distant howls echoed, and it was unclear how many mutants were heading their way. Wang Cheng quickly stated, "I only need these 2 bags, take the rest as agreed." Hearing this, Wang Qi's expression changed. He stepped forward, grabbed Wang Cheng's hand, and urgently said, "Brother, no, take these items. I don't want anything. I just ask you to take me with you. Please let me follow you." Wang Cheng glanced at him and sighed. Wang Qi understood immediately, a hint of reluctance showing on his face, but he still released his grip. "I understand you. If I were you, I wouldn't want to take me along either. Thank you, brother. Without you, I wouldn't have had the chance to gather so many supplies, and I wouldn't have dared to act like a big shot. You killed Xie Bai, and they fear you, thinking you're an unpredictable tough character. But having traveled with you, I know you are a good person. You must live well." Wang Qi's earlier pleas didn't sway Wang Cheng, but these words stirred something in him. He didn't harbor any ill feelings towards this classmate who shared his surname. In a different world, he believed they could have been friends. However, he knew that Wang Qi was not suited to be a companion. Taking a deep breath, Wang Qi activated his shared electric scooter and sped away. Wang Qi quickly followed on his own electric scooter, carrying the supplies he had fortuitously acquired from Wang Cheng, as if protecting a treasure. The mutants surged forward, while Chun Lan and others, who were numerous and loaded with supplies, left quickly. Other survivors, some sensing the danger, grabbed a few items and fled, while others, seeing the abundance of supplies in the supermarket, became greedily excited. However, when they turned around, they found there was no escape. Behind them were already hordes of mutants. Heavy leaden clouds spread at the world's end, with thick smoke rising from the far side of the city, merging into the dense clouds above, adding more shades of gray and bleakness to the world. Wang Qing took a different route, cutting through a wooded area near the school to take a shortcut back to his dormitory. Relying on the advantages of his shotgun and battleship, he eliminated a few swaying mutants on the path, when suddenly, he turned his head. He wasn't sure if it was an illusion, but he thought he heard a heartbeat-like throbbing sound coming from the surrounding woods, as if some monster was lurking in the shadows. However, when Wang Cheng looked closely, He saw nothing but large patches of shadow. A sense of unease struck him. He didn't dare linger and continued moving forward. After a safe journey, he eventually returned to the ground floor of his dormitory. Downstairs in the dormitory, he could still hear some chaotic sounds coming from the adjacent girls' dormitory. It seemed that the survivors in the girls' dormitory were also restless, trying to figure out ways to save themselves. Wang Cheng locked his vehicle and took his belongings directly upstairs. In recent days, they had cleared out the anomalies in the lower half of the boys' dormitory, establishing a relatively safe passage from the 7th floor to the 1st floor. As Wang Cheng made his way up, he encountered no resistance. Instead, he attracted envious glances from other survivors hiding on different floors. They dared not venture out due to a lack of supplies, having gone days without food, feeling the pangs of hunger. In stark contrast, Wang Cheng's situation was quite different. With the arrival of this batch of supplies, his group of 3 had replenished their stock, and while they feasted in the dormitory, Wang Cheng shared his observations from the day. Both Zhang Chao and Su Xinghai were surprised, not expecting the existence of awakened individuals. Su Xinghai speculated, perhaps this is truly some ancient virus. Before the apocalypse, I read a news article stating that scientists discovered ancient viruses deep in Antarctica. I didn't pay much attention then, but it might actually be related. Those mutated creatures must have all been infected by the virus, and it was a malignant infection. However, the awakened individuals might represent a benign infection, which means they didn't turn into monsters but instead gained awakening abilities. After indulging in a hearty meal, the sky outside grew increasingly dark. Wang Cheng, however, was undeterred. He called out to Su Xinghai and Zhang Chao and left dorm 703 once again to hunt anomalies. He seemed unusually excited today, eager to head out. This time, his total energy points had reached 87, and with just a few more anomalies to defeat, he would have enough energy points to upgrade his battleship to level 1. Before making his move, Wang Cheng injected a special serum. This serum was quite unique. Delivered through a bony needle, apparently made entirely from materials sourced from the mutated giant dog, which left Wang Cheng even more impressed by the system's power. Within 20 minutes of the injection, he felt a surge of something extraordinary. Although Wang Cheng was lean and relatively agile, he lacked strength and muscle. At that moment, however, he felt as if his body contained explosive power, thanks to the strength-enhancing serum. During his confrontation with the anomalies, Wang Cheng was astonished to discover that his strength had indeed more than doubled. When one anomaly broke through the shotgun's firepower and approached, Wang Cheng switched to a titanium alloy dagger to fend off its terrifying claws. Normally, given the anomaly's immense power, Wang Cheng would have stumbled back from such a strike. But this time, his titanium dagger withstood the attack, and he remained firmly in place, unyielding. The enhancement of his strength was complete without him even realizing it. His physical strength had increased, surpassing that of 2 muscular adults, only slightly inferior to the terrifying anomaly. Seizing the moment, Wang Cheng raised his gun and fired, taking down the nearby anomaly with a single shot. Wang Cheng looked at his hands in surprise, feeling both unexpected and excited. The strength in his hands now was enough to easily break steel bars, something he never even dared to think about before. This meant that his ability to survive and protect himself had reached a new level when facing mutated creatures. Not only that, but Wang Cheng's energy points had also reached 96. He was just 4 points away from accumulating a full 100 energy points, which would complete his upgrade. Zhang Chao and Su Xinghai were startled by the recent events. Just as they were about to say something, Zhang Chao suddenly shifted his gaze. Do you hear that sound? The tension from hunting mutated creatures made Wang Cheng quiet down, and he was shocked as well, because there was indeed a sound. It echoed in the space, resembling a massive heartbeat, almost identical to what Wang Cheng had heard in the small grove. Now, the sound was louder, nearly filling the entire Haicheng University campus. Zhang Chao rushed to the window, peering outside, but his expression changed drastically. He turned back, pale and flustered, and exclaimed, "You all need to see this. Something big has happened." Chapter 21, Level 1 Battleship. Wang Cheng's breath nearly stopped. In one corner of Haicheng, the gray sky over Haicheng University had inexplicably taken on a tinge of red. From their dormitory building, looking deep into the university town towards the cafeteria, a mass of red clouds was surging up from the ground. It was a kind of fine particle, resembling dust, densely packed, obscuring the sky and turning the heavens above Haicheng University into a haunting blood red. Beneath that crimson hue, a gigantic flower bud was slowly rising, supported by countless blood-colored vines and branches. It trembled slightly, as if breathing, exhaling a massive amount of red dust that filled the air. The enormous pulsing sound, like a heartbeat, was coming from that direction. What on earth was that? Having hunted mutated creatures in recent days, Zhang Chao's courage had increased, but at that moment, he was still horrified. The flower bud looked as big as several cars from such a distance, and up close, it was even more colossal. The blood-colored dust spread towards the edge of the sky, Su Xinghai said, Old Wang, is this what you were talking about? The mutated potted plant in the cafeteria that feeds on the flesh and blood of giant monsters? Wang Cheng's pupils constricted. When he had been to the cafeteria that morning, this thing had not yet bloomed. Although it looked terrifying, most of it was still inside the cafeteria. And the blood-colored vines and branches were merely feeding on the unfortunate giant monster's flesh. But now, it had grown vigorously, seemingly having completely burst through the cafeteria's ceiling. Like a robust seedling breaking through the soil, even on the verge of blooming, it exuded an indescribable sense of immense pressure. At that moment, the system even sent out a notification. Dangerous high-energy biological entity detected. Expected kill to obtain special serum and 1,000 energy points. 1,000 energy points. Wang Cheng's heart skipped a beat. This mutated potted plant could not only provide a special serum, but also grant him 1,000 energy points. 1,000 energy points were equivalent to 1,000 mutated creatures. Perhaps it is enough for his battleship to upgrade from level 0 to level 2, or even level 3. However, the royal city does not dare to covet these 1,000 energy points. After defeating the monsters on the second floor and the mutated giant dog, the royal city understands that the number of energy points is directly related to the strength of the mutated creatures. The stronger the creature, the higher the energy points it can provide. The mutated giant plant is worth 1,000 energy points, which signifies an incredibly terrifying threat. If they were to confront it, the royal city believes that with his current physique, not to mention successfully killing it to obtain 1,000 energy points, he would most certainly die if he tried to approach it. That would be seeking death. The mutated giant tree seems to have surpassed the limits of a plant. Its vines sway in the air, agile like an animal. The royal city feels uneasy. Old 3. Old 1. You guys go back to the dormitory and pack your things. I have a bad feeling. If this thing continues to grow like this, we might not be able to stay in this university city for long. The royal city stays behind to continue hunting the mutated beings. He is just 4 energy points short of reaching 100. In the lower 7 floors, the mutated beings have already lost their threat, and the royal city can handle them himself. Su Xinghai and Zhang Chao rush back to the dormitory while the royal city hunts below. He notices that there are also people running out from the girls' dormitory, panic-stricken and fleeing deeper into the university city. Among them seems to be that so-called campus beauty, Wang Jiai. The royal city races against time, quickly obtaining the 4 energy points. He immediately goes downstairs and shoots a mutated being that dares to approach him. With his hand on the shared electric battleship, he calls for the system and begins the upgrade. Dear host, do you confirm the upgrade of the current bound battleship to level 1? The upgrade is expected to consume 100 energy points. Do you confirm? Upgrade confirm. The royal city does not hesitate. The university city is completely shrouded in bloodshed, and his gaze is fixed on the distance. The huge flower bud rising in the direction of the cafeteria trembles slightly, as if it could bloom at any moment. The heartbeat-like sound grows clearer and more intense, like a person's heartbeat gradually accelerating, making one feel anxious. The royal city does not know what will happen next, but upgrading the battleship as soon as possible is undoubtedly beneficial for him. Battleship scanning in progress. Upgrade will begin shortly. Estimated upgrade time, 7 minutes. 100 energy points have been deducted for the upgrade. Your battleship is about to upgrade to level 1, and you will receive a bonus from one of the following advanced technology modules. 1. Anti-gravity low-altitude flight module. 2. Single-shot missile launcher. 3. Impact energy absorption armor plate. Hearing this system prompt, the royal city is first taken aback, then pleasantly surprised, followed by a sense of dilemma. Choosing 1 out of 3 is too difficult. The first option, anti-gravity flight, seems to be an escape skill, but this module appears to only allow low-altitude flight. Moreover, even if he can evade the mutated beings on the ground, there are undoubtedly monsters in the air. The royal city has not forgotten the creature that pulled that helicopter down from midair. The second option, the missile launcher, is like upgrading from a bird gun to a cannon. The grenades in Wangcheng have all been used up, and the maximum firepower now is just a shotgun. The emergence of missiles has directly elevated Wangcheng to a new level. If he encounters mutated giant dogs again, perhaps a single missile could take them down. This option greatly appealed to Wangcheng, but the missile launcher was actually the only one among the 3 options that couldn't be considered advanced technology. It was just a weapon system. As for what to do when the missiles run out, Wangcheng wasn't worried. He knew that the firepower devices of this type of warship could be directly converted using energy points. This was something Wangcheng discovered after using liquid nitrogen acceleration today. Under a level 0 warship, the liquid nitrogen and energy within his warship were limited. For liquid nitrogen, Wangcheng could either find more himself or convert energy points to replenish it. Today, he consumed 1/3 of his liquid nitrogen with 1 acceleration, and it would only take 6 energy points to restore it. The same applied to energy. Even a dilapidated electric shared bicycle warship required energy supply, which could be obtained in 2 ways. First, by directly charging or refueling. Any input into the warship would be converted into a special energy for the warship, albeit with relatively low efficiency. The fuel needed to fill a vehicle might only convert to about 1/5 of the energy in the warship. Second, energy points could be directly converted. For Wangqing's level 0 warship, it would take around 20 energy points to fully replenish energy through conversion. This clearly illustrated the saying, "You can afford a car, but can't maintain it," and it seemed to apply to warships as well. Wangqing reasoned that the missiles from the fixed missile launcher of the warship, once used, should also be available for direct purchase using energy points. The third option was kinetic energy absorption armor, which Wangqing didn't know much about, but as the name suggested, it was undoubtedly a defensive system. The opposite of the missile launcher, serving as a defensive weapon. Wangqing quickly passed on the first option and was torn between the second and third. It was a question of whether to choose offense or defense. After a moment, Wangqing gritted his teeth and said, "I choose 3, the kinetic energy absorption armor." Ultimately, Wangqing opted for defense. Because defense could also be offensive. Although the missile launcher was impressive, it could only fire one shot at a time, and if supplies ran out, he would be left in the lurch. But with defensive weapons, if his defense was strong enough, not only would he not fear being attacked, he could also charge at others. Today, he hunted mutated giant dogs using the warship to ram them. After all, as long as his head was tough enough, it could count as a form of attack. Having made his decision, the system immediately began the upgrade process. Light spread from Wangqing's palm, quickly enveloping the entire shared electric bicycle warship. During the upgrade, its form began to change rapidly. Even before the light faded, Wangqing could already discern its approximate outline and shape. This time, it was no longer just a case of meat wrapped around iron. It appeared to take on a closed, vehicle-like shape. Level 1 battleship. It seems unlikely that Wangqing could instantly upgrade from a simple vehicle to a truly impressive battleship, as can be seen from the energy points consumed. Nevertheless, he is very much looking forward to it. What exactly will a level 1 battleship look like? Chapter 22. Scarlet Spores. The upgrade process took 7 minutes, which felt a bit long for Wangqing. With no one around, he wasn't worried about being seen. But he was anxious about the mutated creatures and the increasingly terrifying giant plant monsters in the distance. His heart was pounding like a war drum, as if a massive blood-red flower was about to bloom. Wangqing had an uneasy feeling, as if a storm was brewing and something big was about to happen. The 7 minutes, which usually flew by in the blink of an eye, felt particularly long. It was only when the glow of the upgrade faded that Wangqing finally let out a breath and looked at his battleship. "Dear host, the battleship you have locked onto has completed its upgrade. The current level is level 1. The battleship has undergone comprehensive changes. The liquid nitrogen system and stealth function have been upgraded, and the entire hull is now reinforced with alloy steel plating, significantly enhancing overall performance. Impact energy absorption armor plates and thermal radar are now online." As the light dissipated and the battleship upgrade was complete, Wangqing stared in astonishment. Wasn't this just a Wuling Hongguang Mini? At that moment, the level 1 battleship before Wangqing, at first glance, seemed hardly related to a battleship. Its exterior resembled a mini version, with a nose like a missile head and a rear similar to that of a van. It was just a bit longer than the Wuling Hongguang Mini he remembered, reaching nearly 3.5 meters. Although it only had 2 seats, the storage area in the back seemed to be able to fit another person, albeit just barely. However, for 100 energy points, being able to upgrade a basic shared electric vehicle into this was still relatively satisfying for Wangqing. Upgrading a handgun required 10 energy points. Did 100 energy points really need to create a genuine battleship? At least at this moment. This vehicle was no longer an entirely open 2-wheeled vehicle that could only seat 2 people. Its design, while somewhat lackluster, featured a fully enclosed cabin, with the outer frame made of heavy armor plating and an inner layer of ceramic composite, creating a double-layered defense structure. It looked like a vehicle, but its defensive structure could rival that of an armored vehicle or even a light tank. The most absurd part was that such a small size could actually support such heavy equipment. Behind the 2 front seats was not only a storage area, but also a dense array of various devices and modules for the battleship. Though small, it was fully equipped. Wangqing quietly powered it on. In the driver's seat, the dashboard lit up, and numerous buttons on the central steering wheel corresponded to various functions. Nitrogen, stealth low-noise mode. Collision mode, radar activation, low-power mode, and the kinetic energy absorption armor plate function that Wangqing had selected could all be controlled with a single button. The steering wheel itself could even switch modes, transforming from a standard steering wheel into a control stick like that of a fighter jet, capable of changing in an instant like a transformer. When the radar system was activated, a dial on the dashboard lit up, emitting a faint glow. This was the infrared thermal radar, which marked all moving anomalies within 100 meters with crimson dots. However, Wangqing noticed that the remaining energy of the Level 0 spacecraft was less than 30% on the new interface after the upgrade. It seemed that while the energy capacity had expanded, the relative proportion of available energy had decreased. At the same time, the Level 1 spacecraft retained functions that Wang Chung had not used in the Level 0 spacecraft, specifically 2 weapon modules. He placed the weapons in the embedded modules located on the sides of the Wuling spacecraft's headlights, which could be deployed at the push of a button, allowing for rapid fire using the control stick, just like in a video game. Wang Chung squinted his eyes. The firing rate of the handgun and shotgun was too slow. Equipping a rifle seemed like a good choice, although the Level 1 spacecraft was still far from what he envisioned as a true spaceship, and even did not quite match the term warship. The fact that so many functions could be compressed into such a small vehicle was already a testament to advanced technology, especially considering its overall feel, which was wilder than that of a genuine luxury car. Who would have thought that a vehicle like this could traverse a post-apocalyptic world? With its complex and precise technological structure rivaling that of a light armored vehicle, this was only a Level 1 or 2 spacecraft. What about Level 3 or Level 10? If it could evolve into a true warship equipped with turbine laser cannons and thermal beam main guns, perhaps Wang Chung could bombard those monstrous trees growing in the cafeteria into smithereens. The transition from nothing to something requires a process. No one can achieve everything at once. Wang Chung looked forward to it, his hands gently caressing his surroundings. Coming from a family that was not wealthy, it had already been a challenge for them to raise him and send him to university. This was his first vehicle and also his first warship. He gently called out to the system, "How many energy points are needed to upgrade the current Level 1 warship to Level 2? Dear host, your warship is currently at Level 1. The energy points required for upgrading to Level 2 is 300 points. 300 energy points. That was a full 200 points more. What kind of changes would that bring?" Just then, an anomaly appeared, swaying into view. It was coming from the direction of the girls' dormitory, its body twisting unnaturally at the joints. Its head split in two and shaking like 2 enormous fans, bloody and filled with sharp teeth. As it approached, once it entered a certain range, its nostrils flared, detecting Wang Chung, and it let out a horrific howl, suddenly accelerating towards him. The infrared thermal radar had already marked its approach, and once it entered a 10-meter range, the radar would emit a beeping alarm, indicating the proximity of an unknown creature. Wang Chung quickly reversed the vehicle and then accelerated sharply, activating the energy absorption armor function. A faint silver light seemed to cloak his pure black vehicle as he sped forward, crashing into the anomaly like thunder. With a muffled thud, the creature was sent flying, crashing heavily onto the ground behind him. Wang Chung and his vehicle felt almost no impact, as if they had crashed into a mass of cotton. He accelerated again, carrying terrifying momentum forward, found the right position, and directly crushed the head of the downed, mutated creature. 1 energy point credited. Wang Chung got out to inspect. The vehicle showed no damage, and the previous dents from colliding with the mutated giant dog seemed to have been upgraded and repaired as well. The ability to absorb impact was indeed astonishing, and although the vehicle appeared small, its chassis was stable. When it crashed into the mutated creature, the latter clearly tried to resist, but was unable to withstand the force of the vehicle, being sent flying. If faced with more mutated creatures, perhaps it could carve out a bloody path. Wang Chung felt he had made the right choice with this functionality. Of course, he wanted the remaining features as well, believing that with the battleship's upgrades, he would surely obtain them. The recent noise attracted another wandering mutated creature toward him. A cold glint flashed in Wang Cheng's eyes as he prepared to charge again. However, at that moment, a thunderous roar suddenly echoed from deep within the nearby university. The pulsating sound in the air, akin to a drumbeat, abruptly stopped, and the roaring world fell eerily silent. The blood-red sky grew even darker, and Wang Chung looked up in horror, witnessing a terrifying scene he would never forget. In the distance, from the university cafeteria, a blood-red flower suddenly bloomed, its petals reaching toward the sky, releasing countless basketball-sized scarlet spores. They resembled tadpoles, with numerous tentacle-like structures at their ends, their fluffy bodies coalescing into spherical shapes, flying through the air with their own independent life and consciousness. As they targeted the ground, they dove down fiercely. Wang Chung watched in disbelief as a scarlet spore plummeted from the sky, moving through the air like a tadpole swimming in water. With incredible speed, it struck a nearby mutated creature, landing on its split-open head. Wang Chung initially thought it would be consumed by the creature, but to his surprise, those tentacles were razor-sharp, instantly piercing the creature's brain, securing itself to its body while beginning to siphon nutrients. The spore's fluffy body rapidly grew like a virus, soon enveloping the entire head of the mutated creature, appearing from a distance like a massive, balloon-like tumor sprouting from its skull. The scarlet mass expanded and contracted, resembling breathing. The mutated creature's body convulsed violently, its hunched form suddenly standing upright, clearly having lost control over its body. The dense scarlet spores then rained down from the sky, targeting both humans and mutated creatures alike, wrapping around their heads and proliferating wildly. In an instant, a crimson rain of death engulfed the entire university. Wandering mutated creatures and hiding humans all became targets for parasitism. A scarlet spore suddenly emerged, emitting a shrill scream reminiscent of a child's cry, speeding toward the royal city. It seemed unable to differentiate the glass, crashing violently against it, causing ripples on the energy-absorbing deck to flicker. Its body was brutally smashed, appendages splattering everywhere, and a juice resembling blood flowed out. Dear readers, please support with collections, evaluations, comments, and rewards. Chapter 23, Run. This scene was terrifying.